Chapter 1648. For the swordsman, the six-winged race, and the mechanical race, Long Yu's existence was no less than a heavy bomb. After all, even among the swordsmen, the six-winged race, and the mechanical race, there was only one expert who had obtained the divine power of golden flames in the deepest part of the eroding moon ancient territory and turned into a giant of golden flames in the life and death battle, becoming the final winner. But Long Yu had no idea what exactly happened and what the three races were thinking after they learned the news. He only knew that the enemy was attacking the barrier at the edge of the galaxy, and if he didn't stop them, the entire galaxy would be breached. It was not the result that Long Yu wanted to see. Therefore, without any hesitation, he rushed out after he prepared the battle plan. Hardly had he rushed out of the barrier when Long Yu sensed a horrifying power of divine symbols. It was a horrifying sword aura from a demigod of the swordsman. In the dead silence of the void, it was as if the Grim Reaper had shot out of hell to claim his life. The sword aura was supposed to attack the barrier, but because Long Yu walked out of the barrier, the sword aura went directly to Long Yu. Void traversal. Subconsciously, Long Yu activated Void Traversal and teleported to the space in front of him. He had used the secret martial art path of Nine Nether at the same time, which was why he was able to break through the void. Otherwise, the space nearby would have been sealed a long time ago, and nobody could teleport in it. This method immediately attracted the attention of the 9 demigods of the strong races. After all, methods that could ignore the seal of space and teleport were rare even in the entire galaxy. Just as Consort you said, there were 9 demigods who had come to attack the Void Cosmos this time, including 3 from the Sword race, 3 from the Six-Winged race, and 3 from the Mechanical race. Their leaders were all around 38 and 39 times more powerful than the Void Cosmos, which was quite a pressure for Long Yu. Long Yu could deal with one of these opponents at the same time. He could use the deified god power, the sphere of the underworld, to kill it. However, it was impossible to deal with 3 at the same time. Plus, the deified god power of the sphere of the underworld could not be used consecutively. Otherwise, the damage to his little world would be too great. Using it 3 times in a row was already Long Yu's limit. It was enough to make him lose the ability to fight for a long time. If he used it twice in a row, although Long Yu could absorb a level 1 heavenly crystal grade creation item to recover, he didn't have many level 1 heavenly crystal grade creation items with him anymore. Although he had obtained quite a few in the eroding moon ancient region, he had already absorbed 2 of them when he used the Octagon Bloodline and activated the Sphere of the Underworld twice in a row. Although he did not lack creation items, he could not waste them like this. If the Heaven Fire Doyen had not come up with a method like the Heaven Imprisoning Wings, the attack this time would have been enough to give Long Yu a headache. Come on, you demigods of alien races. Long Yu bellowed. He flew toward the void outside and activated the Dark Flame Ghost Chain. An iron chain that was burning with pitch-black flames suddenly appeared out of thin air and then wrapped around the 9 alien demigods. A terrifying destructive power was completely unleashed. This was the first time that Long Yu had used this divine-like source item after he became a demigod. The power that was unleashed at its full power shocked even Long Yu a little. The iron shackles with pitch-black flames instantly entangled one of the sword-shaped demigods. Then, the gloomy, pitch-black flames began to burn the demigod's body. Even the demigod couldn't break free at all. It must be noted that this demigod of the sword race was a powerful existence with 24 times the power density. It was much more powerful than the soul, King Tiangu. Also, it could be sensed that it had even awakened and opened the ancient god brain domain. It was just unknown what kind of ancient god seal and ancient god pattern were engraved in the ancient god brain domain. But in any case, after being instantly entangled by the dark flame ghost chain that Long Yu activated, the power density of this demigod of the sword race was directly reduced to 14 times. It was only a little bit stronger than a new demigod. When the power density was reduced, the power of the dark flame ghost chain actually corroded the demigod of the sword race in an instant. This demigod of the sword race had no way to resist at all. Although the demigod of the sword race had already used a lot of defensive and recovery methods, its body was still being corroded quickly. Fortunately, the demigod of the sword race, who had 38 times the power density, saw this and immediately took action. Countless sword auras descended from the sky and pushed back the dark flame ghost chain that had been swept into that area. This demigod of the sword race actually had a preliminary modified divine source item, and it was a sword-shaped divine source item. It had already completely comprehended the power within it. Sword auras kept bursting out of this sword-shaped divine source item and were actually on par with the power of the dark flame ghost chain. After all, this demigod of the sword race had a power density of 38 times. Although it had been weakened by 10 times by the star branding mark and was only left with 28 times, it was still much stronger than Long Yu's. Long Yu had to constantly fling the power of the dark flame ghost chains behind him. Countless chain images burning with pitch-black flames constantly obstructed the other party's pursuit. Only then could he slow down the other party's footsteps and buy Long Yu a little time. Fortunately, even if he went around the entire galaxy, it wasn't too far for demigods. However, after traveling through the void for more than 100 times, Long Yu finally sensed the location of the Heaven Imprisoning Wings formation and directly rushed into the formation. He sensed the Heaven Imprisoning Wings formation stone in the small world. Once all 9 demigods were trapped inside, he would brazenly activate the formation and trap them inside. The Heaven Imprisoning Wings was an ancient formation from the primeval relics of the multi-winged race. Even the powerful demigods of alien races like the Sword Race couldn't detect its existence. When Long Yu was a certain distance away from the Heaven Imprisoning Wings magical formation, he had already subconsciously reduced his speed, shortening the distance of his void traversal. This created a situation where he didn't have enough power. After all, his void traversal relied on his battle weapon, so it was normal for this to happen. Seeing that, the 9 demigods of alien races didn't suspect anything and all chased after Long Yu. After all, the gap between them and Long Yu was too huge. They weren't afraid of any traps that Long Yu had set up at all, because even among the sword race, there was no such thing as killing an opponent with a strength density 20 times higher than theirs. Right now, Long Yu's strength density was 15 times higher than theirs at most, but the strongest of them had a strength density of 39 times higher than theirs. As long as they caught up to Long Yu, they could completely crush him. Even if Long Yu had the divine power of golden flames, so what? In such a short time, it was impossible for the brat to comprehend the divine power of golden flames too deeply. He was still no threat to them. Therefore, the 9 demigods didn't notice anything and directly followed Long Yu into the formation of the Heaven Imprisoning Wings. In the next moment, Long Yu teleported away from the area and activated the formation stone that he had prepared in the small world. In the next moment, the formation of the Heaven Imprisoning Wings was activated. Chapter 1649. The illusions of the multi-winged race that were made of countless sand runes appeared in the magic circle one after another and covered the void with the most powerful and enormous sand wings. The entire magic circle was filled with sand, and the sand wings trapped every demigod of the alien race in it. 9 powerful demigods from the sword race, the 6-winged race, and machine race were trapped by the Heaven Imprisoning Wings. Countless yellow sand wings formed 9 cages, immobilizing the 9 demigods. Long Yu didn't waste any time. He controlled the core of the magic circle with his telepathic thoughts and released a demigod of the sword race that was 24 times the original size. Then, the dark flame ghost was waved out. Countless pitch-black flames enshrouded the sword-shaped body of the demigod of the sword race. The flames of death quickly corroded the body of the sword race. Sphere of Tartarus. Long Yu dragged the demigod of the sword race into an area where time was slowed down with the ordinary sphere of Tartarus, making it 10 times slower than Long Yu. Under such circumstances, the demigod of the sword race would have to spend 10 times more time to perform any techniques. Countless sword auras appeared all over its body, and quite a few sword aura weapons flew out of its small world. However, they couldn't disperse the pitch-black flames on the dark flame ghost. The flames of death burned inside its body. While it was trying its best to resist, Long Yu raised his hand. The power of 4 kinds of divine characters of death emerged from the void, and the 4 symbols of death burst out. The demigod of the sword race that had 24 times the original strength density had been weakened by 10 times by Long Yu's star branding mark, leaving only 14 times the original strength density, which was even lower than Long Yu's current 15 times. The demigod of the sword race couldn't resist at all when Long Yu performed all kinds of techniques. Under the joint attack of the dark flame ghost and the 4 symbols of death, the demigod of the sword race didn't even last 3 seconds before it was easily killed by Long Yu. Then, it was devoured by the sphere of Tartarus. The remains of the demigod of the sword race turned into pure energy for the growth of the sphere of Tartarus. The remains of its small world, however, were taken away by Long Yu. After all, it was a powerful demigod of the sword race. There might be some precious things in it, and the remains of the small world couldn't be swallowed easily. After killing one of them, Long Yu released another demigod of the sword race. He also killed it in 3 seconds, swallowed its remains, and took away the remains of its small world. However, at this time, Long Yu discovered that it was still very difficult for the heaven-imprisoning wings to trap the 3 powerful demigods. Perhaps in another 30 minutes, the 3 powerful demigods would be able to break free from the heaven-imprisoning wings array. This made Long Yu decide that he had to get rid of these 3 powerful demigods first. Come on out. Long Yu activated the core of the formation and released the demigod of the sword race, whose strength density was 38 times that of the normal one. Then, the demigod of the sword race charged at Long Yu Chai in extreme fury. Countless blades sliced through the void, as if they were going to cut the entire void into pieces. It had seen Long Yu kill 2 of its clansmen with its own eyes, and the 2 demigods of the sword race were its juniors. It wasn't hard to imagine how furious the demigod of the sword race was. Of course, no matter how furious it wasn't so easy to kill Long Yu after all. When the demigod of the sword race attacked, Long Yu was already surrounded by the sphere of Tartarus, which slowed down the flow of time in the area. Then, the 8 polarity bloodlines inside his body finally burst out. It was impossible for Long Yu to hold back when he was fighting against the demigod of the sword race whose strength density was 38 times. If he hadn't tried his best at the beginning, it would have been impossible for him to kill 2 of them before they broke free. When the 8 polarity bloodlines were activated, Long Yu's strength density was further compressed, from 15 times to 23 times. Also, when the power of the star branding mark landed on the demigod, its strength was reduced to 28 times. The gap between them had basically been reduced to the minimum. At this moment, the final outcome would be decided by whose methods were more powerful. The dark flame ghostly chains coiled around Long Yu, and the black flames continued to burn, making him look like a chained demon from hell. The demigod of the sword race, on the other hand, was in the shape of a sharp longsword. Countless sword auras were spreading out from its body as it flew toward Long Yu quickly in the air. Even the beginner divine source item in the shape of a longsword was moving side by side with the demigod of the sword race. The 2 of them had formed a wonderful tacit understanding. While it was charging toward Long Yu, the aura of the demigod of the sword race and the demigod of the sword race was rising, and the density of their strength was gradually increasing. Is this similar to Soul King Tiangu's method? But Soul King Tiangu achieved this effect with the ancient God-brain field, and this demigod of the sword race relied on that demigod of the sword race. In that case, the Dark Flame Ghost Chains must have some special uses, but I don't know how to make use of its special effects yet. While Long Yu was thinking, the demigod of the sword race and the beginner divine source item in the shape of a sword race reached him. The demigod of the sword race didn't slow down in the slightest, even though he was slowed down by the orb of Tartarus. Some kind of godlike power rippled on his body, making Long Yu feel extremely pressured. It's the ancient god's sigil. The effect of this guy's ancient god sigil is to ignore all control methods. Long Yu was shocked. Even the slowing down of the flow of time couldn't affect the opponent. It was obvious that the effect of the ancient god's sigil in the ancient god brain field of the demigod of the sword race was extremely terrifying. It was even as precious as the star branding sigil in Long Yu's ancient god brain field. There were countless types of ancient god sigil in this world. Right now, Long Yu had seen another powerful existence. The demigod of the sword race arrived in front of Long Yu in an instant and stabbed at Long Yu from two different directions together with a divine source item in the shape of a sword. When the sword penetrated Long Yu's body, Long Yu's entire body turned into nothingness. This was the most powerful method of the Book of Shadows. When he hadn't reached the demigod level, this was his strongest life-saving method. But now, when he turned into nothingness, the surrounding layer of nothingness was completely visible to the opponent. Then, the power of the two swords burst out, and the sharp sword light pierced through the nothingness where Long Yu was hiding and shattered it. Long Yu's entire body reappeared, and then the two sword-shaped existences directly pierced through his chest and head. Almost without any resistance, Long Yu's head and chest were pierced through, and they exploded under the sweeping sword aura. The attack ability of the sword race is really too strong, Long Yu thought. Fortunately, the devil dust heart reacted quickly, and in just a breath's time, his head and chest were reconstructed, and the opponent didn't even sense the location of the devil dust heart. Before this operation, the opponent must have looked up a lot of information and knew that the weaknesses of the human race were the head and the heart. But unfortunately, Long Yu is not an ordinary human. He cultivated the devil dust heart, devil dust clones. With a thought from Long Yu, 3 devil dust doppelgangers separated from his miniature world. Following that, countless divine abilities were unleashed. The 3 huge shadows appeared in the air, respectively using the hand of Nine Nether, the soul siphon, and the dragon breath of Nine Nether, targeting the demigod of the sword race. At the same time, the pitch-black flame chains of the dark flame ghost wrapped around the opponent, and the entanglement of the sphere of Nine Nether didn't stop either, trapping the opponent within. Unfortunately, the effect of the opponent's ancient god tattoo was too strong, and Long Yu's control methods didn't have any effect at all. Instead, the entanglement of the sphere of Nine Nether was instantly shattered by the countless sword lights. So strong. This was the first time that Long Yu had fought against such an existence. Even with the weakening effect of the jade branding tattoo, the opponent could still erupt with such terrifying power. It was truly astonishing. But this didn't mean that Long Yu didn't have a way to deal with this demigod of the sword race. From the looks of it, it's impossible to kill this guy without using the divinized ability of the sphere of Nine Nether, Long Yu thought to himself. But he didn't rashly use the divinized ability of the sphere of Nine Nether. After all, he could only use this method no more than 3 times, and even using it 3 times would cause him great damage. If it wasn't necessary, he really didn't want to use it. And the most important thing was that even if he used the divinized ability of the sphere of Nine Nether, he might not be able to kill this demigod of the sword race. The effect of the ancient god tattoo in the brain of the ancient god was simply too heaven-defying. Long Yu even wondered if he could snatch the ancient god tattoo from the opponent, but it was a pity that it was impossible. That was because the ancient god tattoo wasn't a physical existence, but a mental state, something similar to some martial arts techniques. The martial arts techniques and the ancient god tattoo that others had learned and imprinted would naturally not be dropped in the form of an item after death, unless there was a gray stone that recorded the ancient god tattoo in the opponent's small world. The ancient god tattoo that Long Yu obtained in the eroding moon ancient domain was all one-time use. After he comprehended it, the gray stone would disappear. It should be the same for the other ancient god tattoo. For symbols killing prison. With a thought, Long Yu used the 4 symbols killing prison again, enveloping the opponent with the power of 4 kinds of divine characters that were filled with the aura of death, and quickly eroding the opponent's body. The opponent's double swords did not completely kill Long Yu, which made the demigod of the sword race very confused. After all, the information it had found was the weakness of the human race, the head and the heart. It had just completely destroyed these two places, but this human kid was still alive? The next moment, Long Yu's attack descended like a storm. Unfortunately, under the effect of the ancient god tattoo, these attacks were almost useless. Even when the four symbols killing prison descended, the aura of death and divine characters were blocked outside the body of the demigod of the sword race, unable to corrode it. The opponent's body seemed to have an extremely strong barrier that blocked all negative effects and attacks. Chapter 1650. The battle seemed to have reached a dead end. If Long Yu couldn't break through the enemy's barrier, he wouldn't be able to kill the enemy even if he used the Divine Eyes technique of the Sphere of Tartarus, because the enemy's defense was almost impenetrable. In such a situation, if Long Yu wanted to win, he had to figure out what the barrier outside the enemy's body was. It's a combat weapon. It's a barrier created by a special divine grade absolute beginning. At this time, the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger that had been flying next to Long Yu finally sent out a telepathic thought and reminded Long Yu. It was also a special divine grade absolute beginning. The Void Spirit Dragon Dagger sensed the existence of the sword race and reminded Long Yu. However, the enemy has already awakened this combat weapon to the 12th level, which is much more powerful than what I can unleash. This barrier is only one of its abilities. You have to be careful. Okay, Long Yu nodded. He now understood the source of the enemy's defense barrier, but he still didn't know how to deal with it. After all, the barriers seemed to be impenetrable. Be it control methods, offensive methods, or even mental attacks, they were all completely blocked by it. It was really too powerful. However, the enemy wouldn't be able to maintain such a barrier for a long time. According to Long Yu's speculation, if the battle went on like this, it would only take a while for the enemy's barrier to collapse. However, the key thing was that Long Yu didn't have much time to wait. If he spent too much time on the demigod of the sword race, the other two demigods of the machine race and the six-winged race would soon wake up. By then, Long Yu would probably be killed by them. Previously, the three races were still holding each other back, so Long Yu lured the enemy into the magic circle of the sky imprisoning wings. But now, the demigod of the sword race had already gone mad. After all, Long Yu had killed two of its kind, so there was no way it would hold back. It had used its full strength to deal with Long Yu. It was easy to see how powerful a demigod of this level was. If the other two powerful demigods broke free at the same time, it would definitely be a desperate situation for Long Yu. Fortunately, for now, he only needed to face this sword race being as his opponent. Let me fuse with you. At this moment, the Dragon Bone Tower, or Dragon Feather, which had remained silent the entire time, suddenly sent a soul message to Long Yu. At the same time, the Saint Emperor actually left the galaxy, passing through the spirit barrier and hurrying over. You have a way. Long Yu was excited. He had no way of dealing with the barrier of the demigod of the sword race, so he still respected Long Yu's words. If Long Yu had a way to break through the barrier, then everything would be fine. You can give it a try, but only if you use balance control and sense the structure of that defensive barrier. Long Yu's calm divine will transmit it over. Long Yu nodded. Then let's go. Taking advantage of the fact that the demigod of the sword race was still trapped by Long Yu's countless attacks and could not break out for the time being, Long Yu's entire body shone with the light of balance. With the enhanced senses of the balance control, he sensed the defensive barrier of the opponent. But even so, he still couldn't see anything special about the barrier. Now that the Saint Emperor had finally arrived, the special weapon in his hand, the 1,000 Feathers of Flight, appeared and fused with the Dragon Bone Tower in Long Yu's hand. Countless dragon bones wrapped around the 1,000 feathers, and very soon, 1,000 dragon bones were formed. Once these 1,000 dragon bone feathers were fused together, they flew towards the vicinity of the sword race, being with the aid of Long Yu's balance control of his senses. Although it was a special primordial divine quality, the 1,000 feathers of dragon bone had not been awakened. It was too weak to be taken seriously by the demigod of the sword race. But then, the situation was completely different. Although Long, you couldn't sense any flaws on the defensive barrier with his perception of balance control. The 1,000 feathers of dragon bone seemed to have a stronger ability. It had the natural ability to break through all kinds of defensive barriers. This was something that Long Yu and the Saint Emperor hadn't thought of before. The Dragonbone 1,000 Feathers was a special absolute beginning divine grade item that was fused together. One of its special abilities was an extremely powerful barrier-breaking ability. Under the gazes of Long Yu and the Saint Emperor, the 1,000 dragon bones of Dragon Bone flew toward different spots on the barrier in an extremely strange trajectory. The spots that were attacked formed an extremely mysterious pattern. When the pattern appeared on the defensive barrier of the demigod of the sword race, it produced an extremely terrifying power that started to disintegrate the defensive barrier from the inside. Not only did the situation surprise Long Yu and the Saint Emperor, but the demigod of the sword race was also in disbelief. How could a mere human with a power density 10 times that of a normal human be able to use such a method? This human's primordial divine quality seemed a little strange, but before it could think too much about it, Long Yu didn't hesitate at all when the defensive barrier was broken. He immediately activated the divinized ability of the Sphere of 9 Hells. A huge shadow of a pitch-black dragon appeared behind him. The Sphere of 9 Hells appeared in the void and directly dragged the demigod's consciousness into the turbulence of time. In the next 3 breaths, the demigod of the sword race was like a tiger waiting to be slaughtered. Although it was ferocious, it couldn't fight back at all. Die! The 4 symbols killing prison and the dark flame ghost chain were unleashed at the same time. After the defensive barrier was broken, Long Yu completely corroded the body of the demigod of the sword race. The body of the sword race wasn't very strong. Even the body of this demigod of the sword race wasn't very strong. Therefore, at this moment, Long Yu was able to destroy the body of the demigod of the sword race easily. The 4 symbols killing prison and the 4 kinds of power that carried the aura of death corroded the body of the demigod of the sword race at an extremely fast speed. That sword-shaped body was soon riddled with holes. The pitch-black flames on the dark flame ghost chain also started burning on the body of the demigod of the sword race and started burning its spirit and soul. Very soon, the demigod was dragged into a state of weakness. Although Long Yu's power density was slightly lower than that of the demigod, he could still kill the demigod with these 2 methods. The time of 3 breaths passed very quickly. The divinized ability and the power of the Sphere of 9 Hells finally disappeared. The demigod of the sword race also woke up. Its consciousness broke out of the turbulence of time. As soon as it came out, it found that it was heavily injured and could die at any time. The demigod of the sword race trembled and let out a series of clangs. Then, countless rays of light burst out of the small world. At the same time, the shadow of a long sword appeared behind it. The shadow of the long sword represented that it had used an innate ability. It actually summoned countless rays of sword aura of light, which piled up on its decaying body and started to heal it. However, the speed of its recovery was far inferior to that of Long Yu's devil dust heart. One of the divinized abilities of the demigod of the sword race turned out to be a healing ability. It seemed to be very practical, but in front of Long Yu, this innate ability was completely useless. The divinized ability of the soul seal absorption was activated. Immediately, a siphon totem appeared in the field. It actually burst out with an extremely strong suction force, swallowing all the rays of sword aura of light and stopping the demigod from continuing to heal. The power of the death prison of 4 symbols and the dark flame lone ghost that had corroded the demigod of the sword race were still destroying the demigod's body and pushing it closer to death. Faced with such a strong demigod of the alien race, it was impossible to completely annihilate it even when the consciousness of the divinized ability, the Sphere of 9 Hells, was in a state of confusion. He could only rely on it to gain a certain advantage. If he could not seize the advantage, it was very possible that the demigod of the sword race would turn the tables. Naturally, Long Yu would not allow such a thing to happen. After activating the soul imprint siphon to devour the other party's healing sword chi, Long Yu once again activated the Nether Void Dragonblade. The Nether Burial Stream erupted where the other party was, and a powerful whirlpool formed from water-type absolute beginning power completely engulfed the other party. The death prison of 4 symbols, the dark flame lone ghosts, and the void burial were too much for the demigod of the sword race to endure. Of course, the most important thing was that after the defensive barrier disappeared, his entire body fell into a zone where the flow of time slowed down. Even if he wanted to resist, his movements became extremely slow. It was impossible for him to resist Long Yu's attacks. While the demigod of the sword race was in disbelief, the spirit and soul of the demigod of the sword race were first burned up by the pitch-black flames of the dark flame lone ghosts. Then, his physical body was corroded by the death prison of 4 symbols, leaving only the remains of a small world and a decaying body of the demigod of the sword race. Sphere of 9 hells, devour! Long Yu gave the order. Then, he looked at the sage emperor and saw the joy in the latter's eyes. Without a doubt, this battle had been too dangerous. If the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers had not taken action at the crucial moment, Long Yu might not have won or lost. If he had lost, it would be a huge blow to the entire galaxy. But now it was finally over. He had relied on the special ability of the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers to break through barriers. Although I don't have any memories of this, a voice told me that this method is called the wall-breaking divine diagram. Dragon Feather's consciousness was transmitted into the minds of Long Yu and the Sage Emperor. The divine diagram is a method used by the experts of the divine spirit realm. The wall-breaking divine diagram is a method specially used to break through defensive barriers. It's very effective in breaking through all kinds of defensive barriers. This is a special ability that I obtained after fusing with it. It seems like the divine diagram has been completely lost in this world. After receiving this information from Dragon Feather, Long Yu and the Sage Emperor finally realized how lucky they were. The wall-breaking divine diagram actually had such a method. Could one obtain some corresponding divine diagram methods by fusing with a special weapon? Long Yu did not know. He only knew that there were 2 more intense battles ahead, and neither one of them would be easier than this one. Let's fight the mechanical race first. Long Yu looked at the formation of the heaven imprisoning wings. Chapter 1651. After Long Yu killed the demigod of the sword race, he did not stay where he was. Instead, he immediately moved his eyes to the other demigods trapped in the sky imprisoning wing array. His target was the demigod of the machine race who had 39 times the strength density. Then, with a telepathic thought, he activated the core of the array and released the demigod of the machine race. However, what the demigod of the machine race did after he was released surprised Long Yu. That was because the demigod of the machine race did not attack Long Yu directly. Instead, he created quite a few mechanical clones and besieged Long Yu first, trying to stall him. Then, he himself began to attack the sky imprisoning wing array. Countless mechanical bullets shot out from the body of the machine race and bombarded the giant yellow sand wings. His main target was the giant wings of the powerful demigod of the 6-winged race. This demigod of the machine race, who had 39 times the strength density, had just seen Long Yu and the Saint Emperor kill the demigod of the sword race together. Therefore, he knew that Long Yu was very difficult to deal with. Now that he had just come out, the first thing he wanted to do was to release the other demigods. Of course, his first choice was the demigod of the 6-winged race, who had 38 times the strength density. This time, none of the powerful demigods sent by the 3 powerful races had reached 40 times the strength density. In fact, every time the strength density of a demigod exceeded 20 times, it was equivalent to an improvement of a stage, and there would be some qualitative changes in their strength. This time, none of the 3 demigods was particularly powerful. Therefore, when faced with Long Yu who could kill the demigod of the sword race, the machine race chose to save the demigod of the 6-winged race first, hoping that they could work together to kill Long Yu. When the demigod of the sword race was killed by Long Yu, the machine race demigod and the demigod of the six-winged race who was still trapped realized that Long Yu was tricky. Originally, they thought that a mere human demigod with 15 times the power density would pose no threat to them at all, and that they would be able to kill him easily. But now, it seemed that Long Yu's strength was completely beyond their imagination. To be able to kill that powerful demigod of the sword race, this human strength was rather odd. Although the machine race and the six-winged race demigod were trapped, they saw the situation clearly. Also, they were very clear about the strength of the sword race demigod. The defense barrier created by the special, powerful ultimate beginning divine grade was extremely troublesome. If not for some special methods, there was no way this sword race being could have been killed. Clearly, this human had many tricks up his sleeves. He had no choice but to take this seriously. Long Yu was surrounded by the mecha clones. He made the Saint Emperor quickly retreat. After all, it was very difficult for a Saint Emperor to be of any use in a battle of this level. Basically, the Saint Emperor would only have the need and opportunity to fight when he needed to fuse with the battle weapons and break through the enemy's defenses. Ball of the Netherworld. Long Yu directly activated the Sphere of Nine Underworld's magical ability, attempting to slow down, entangle, and control the mechanical race clones. Then, he would prevent the mechanical race's main body from opening the giant yellow sand wings of the heaven imprisoning wings. However, he discovered that these mechanical race clones were extremely difficult to deal with. Although they were indeed affected by the Ball of the Netherworld's slowing down effect, these mecha clones chose to self-destruct directly. The tyrannical ultimate beginning power of the metal element burst out from the field and surrounded Long Yu entirely. Assimilation field. Long Yu performed this secret martial art technique that he hadn't used for a long time. Then, he assimilated the surrounding field and weakened the power of the opponent's self-destruction by 90%. The remaining ultimate beginning power of the metal element swept over Long Yu's body and caused quite a lot of damage to Long Yu. However, it couldn't hurt his devil dust heart. In just an instant, Long Yu completely recovered. However, during this period of time, the main body of the machine race was about to break the seal of the heaven imprisoning wings and release the six-winged race demigod. Not good. Long Yu thought of something. If he were to face two powerful demigods of alien races at the same time, his situation would be extremely dangerous. The strength of this mecha was 39 times that of the power density, and the six-winged race was 38 times that of the power density. If the two of them joined forces, they would definitely be much stronger than the sword race. Now, Long Yu was very clear that all the demigod experts of this level had a few trump cards. For example, the sword race. Just that defensive barrier alone was enough to render Long Yu helpless. The machine race and the six-winged race definitely had similar powerful techniques. If they were to use those techniques, it would be hard to say whether Long Yu would be able to emerge victorious. Even if it was a one-on-one battle, it was not an easy thing for Long Yu. After all, he couldn't use the Divine Eyes technique of the Ball of the Netherworld continuously. Now that the two of them joined forces, the situation would be even more difficult for Long Yu. Void Travel. Void Burial. Under Long Yu's command, the Void Nether Dragon Dagger directly teleported to the inside of the heaven imprisoning wings. At the same time, it took Long Yu with it. The primordial energy of the water element directly exploded next to the mecha race expert, forming a terrifying whirlpool. It was a pity that the power density of the Void Nether Dragon Dagger was only 10 times that of the power density. It couldn't affect the mecha race at all. Moreover, the mecha race just stayed in the void steadily. A layer of metallic silver ripple barrier flickered on its body, completely blocking the destructive power of the void burial outside. It couldn't be hurt at all. Dragon Bone, Thousand Feathers Fuse. Dragon Bone Break. Long Yu activated the special primordial grade that he had fused with, and then activated the derivative technique of the war weapon from before. Then, countless dragon bone feathers appeared in the field and started to spin at high speed from all directions, attacking the demigod of the machine race. The Dragon Bone Break was an attack that Long Yu had used before. The high-speed rotation of the Dragon Bone Tower brought about extremely destructive power. But now, there were 1,000 dragon bone feathers spinning at high speed. Although their destructive power wasn't as terrifying, their penetrative power was much stronger than before. Not to mention that their number was 1,000 times greater than before. They came from different directions and bombarded the silver metal ripple barrier of the mecha race like raindrops. The special veined patterns of the wall breaker divine diagram appeared once again on the ripple barrier and instantly shattered it. Death Prison of the Four Symbols. Long Yu continued to attack. For types of power with the aura of death spread out from the void, directly covering the body of the defenseless mecha and starting to corrode its body. However, the mecha race didn't panic when it encountered Long Yu's attack. Although its power density had been reduced to 29 times, it still suppressed Long Yu a little. After all, even with the outbreak of Long Yu's 8 Extremities bloodline, his power density was only 23 times. The difference of 6 times meant that there was still a huge gap between the basic strength of the two sides. However, when the death prison of the four symbols enveloped the demigod of the machine race, countless mechanical tentacles burst out from its body and stretched out in all directions. At the same time, the power of an eternal divine text burst out and actually swept away the entire death prison of the four symbols in one go. The powerful technique of the demigod of the machine race directly dispelled the attack of Long Yu's death prison of the four symbols. The aura of death instantly disappeared without a trace. At the same time, more mechanical tentacles stretched out from the body of the demigod of the machine race and directly grabbed the yellow sand wings that sealed the demigod of the six-winged race. Then, the tentacles wrapped around the demigod tightly. With a flash of golden light, a terrifying power broke through the air and directly broke it apart. In the next moment, 3 pairs of pure white wings broke out from the yellow sand. The demigod of the six-winged race that had 38 times the power density broke out of the heaven-imprisoning wing array. This six-winged race had white wings, not golden wings or silver wings. It could be seen that among the six-winged race, its bloodline was not pure. At the very least, it couldn't be considered as a noble member of the royal family. However, there was no doubt about its strength. Although it was trapped by the heaven-imprisoning wing array, it was still very clear about the situation on the battlefield. Therefore, when the mecha race rescued it, it directly launched an attack at Long Yu without any hesitation. The 3 pairs of pure white wings on its back instantly radiated snow-white light and turned into 3 pairs of huge wings that covered the sky. They actually enveloped the entire heaven-imprisoning wing array and completely covered it. Hum! Divine symbols of the six-winged race also burst out of the body of the six-winged race. The endless power of the divine symbols burst out of the snow-white wings and directly destroyed the entire heaven-imprisoning wing array. The other 4 demigods that had been trapped in the array were all released. 2 demigods of the six-winged race and 2 demigods of the mecha race were all demigods that had 25 times the power density. It was not a big deal for Long Yu, but for other people in the Void Galaxy, they were existences that could completely crush them. For a moment, the heaven-imprisoning wing array was destroyed, and the remaining 2 demigods on the enemy side were all released. Not only Long Yu, but the entire Void Galaxy was also in danger, because if Long Yu failed, the Void Galaxy would have no room to defend itself. Although the target of these demigods was Long Yu, if they killed Long Yu, how could they let the Void Galaxy go? After all, the Void Galaxy was Long Yu's force. The alien races naturally knew the principle of cutting weeds and eliminating the roots. There was no way that they would leave the Void Galaxy alive. This is going to be troublesome, Long Yu thought to himself. His eyes were glittering. He had intended to stop the enemy from breaking the heaven-imprisoning wing array, but he was not strong enough. It was already not easy for him to kill a demigod of the sword race. Now that he was faced with 2 strong demigods and 4 demigods of the regular alien races, Even Long Yu was under a lot of pressure. The three demigods of the six-winged race and the three demigods of the mecha race broke free from the heaven-imprisoning wing array and surrounded Long Yu. Their horrible aura descended on the battlefield and the heart of every demigod in the Void Galaxy. So far, the greatest crisis of the Void Galaxy had finally arrived. Chapter 1652. Alone, Long Yu was facing three demigods of the mechanical race and three demigods of the six-winged race outside the barrier of the galaxy. Two of them even had a strength density of 38 and 39 times. Such a situation could be said to be quite terrible for Long Yu. No matter what, I can't retreat today, Long Yu thought to himself. Besides, in front of such strong enemies, he couldn't run away at all even if he wanted to. The fact that the other party could find him in the Void Galaxy and not in the human race territory meant that the other party could detect his exact location. Although Long Yu did not know how the other party could detect his location, there was no doubt that he had no way to escape from the other party. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to the Void Galaxy first. Instead, they would have gone straight to the human race's territory. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Long Yu to run away, and there was no way for him to do so. The six demigods surrounded Long Yu, and the space around him was completely locked. Long Yu felt that it would be extremely difficult to escape from the enclosed space, even if he activated the congenital technique, the Path of Nine Nether. When he activated the technique, it was impossible for the enemy to remain indifferent. They would definitely try to stop Long Yu. The two demigods of the alien race whose strength density was close to 40 times were enough to make Long Yu unable to fight back, not to mention the other four demigods whose strength density was around 25 times. The four demigods together were definitely not weak. After all, they were existences on the same level as Soul King Tiangu. Even though Long Yu's strength had improved, it was still difficult for him to kill four demigods of such a level when they joined hands. It would be very difficult for him to do it alone. Escape was impossible, so the only path left was to fight to the death. Thankfully, Long Yu had a lot of methods now. Even if he had to deal with so many demigods of the alien race at the same time, it wouldn't be a problem for him to persist for a while. As for what he should do after that, he could only think about it when the time came. Devil Dust Clone. Out. Long Yu was already prepared when the other party was about to break the heaven-imprisoning winged spirit array. At this moment, when he was surrounded by six alien demigods, he brazenly activated Devil Dust's heart, the ultimate mystery of the secret technique, Devil Dust Clones. 8 clones appeared at the same time and dispersed in all directions. Of the 8 Devil Dust Clones, 4 of them were dealing with an alien demigod whose power density was 25 times, and the other 4 were dealing with the snow-white, six-winged clan demigod whose power density was 38 times. As for the mechanical demigod with 39 times the strength density, Long Yu would deal with it himself. As the 8 Devil Dust clones dispersed, Long Yu breathed a sigh of relief. However, inside the boundary of the gods and the galaxy, the newly advanced demigods all gasped deeply. Consort Yu, the Saint Emperor, Red Oriole, Moon Song, Ji Tao, and Yi Ziwei, 6 women in total, all held their breath at this moment and stared at the battlefield. Far away in the void, the alien demigods were emitting waves of terrifying and powerful aura. Is there anything we can do? Sensing the powerful aura of the 6 alien demigods, the women all felt a little frustrated. They had thought that after they stepped into the demigod level, they were already standing on the peak of this world and had enough strength to protect and help the people around them who needed it. But now, they realized that stepping into the demigod level was just the beginning. The demigods of the human race and the demon race were too weak compared to the demigods of other powerful alien races. For example, the sword race, the mechanical race, and the 6-winged clan could casually send 3 middle-level demigods, and the human race and the demon race's territory would not be able to resist at all. Those 3 races were the strongest alien races at the center of the Langus space zone. They didn't even care about the resources in remote areas like the human race and the demon race. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any space for humans and demons to live in the Langus space zone. I'll go and help. Very soon, someone made a decision, and all three of them made the decision at the same time. Red Oriole, the Saint Emperor, and Jitao looked at each other and saw a hint of surprise in each other's eyes. Red Oriole had the closest and most special relationship with Longyu. Of course, she would not hide behind Longyu alone. Even if she had to die, Red Oriole hoped that she and Longyu would die together, instead of living on her own. Therefore, instead of waiting for death, she might as well go out and help. Even if she could only lure away one of the alien demigods for Longyu, it would still be a great help for Longyu. The Saint Emperor, on the other hand, was connected with Longyu's mind. He knew that Longyu might be able to use him later. After all, the special ability of the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers, namely the wall-breaking pattern, was very powerful. Maybe it could be used at a critical moment like when they were dealing with the demigods of the sword race. As for Jitao, she had the highest energy density among all the women. Even at this moment, the body of the Geo-Dragon Emperor that she occupied had finally recovered to 35 times its original energy density. Such a level of energy was completely enough to help Longyu bear some pressure in a head-on battle. Of course, the body of the Geo-Dragon Emperor that Jitao occupied was not complete. The small world inside had been swallowed by the steel of 9 hells and condensed into the 8th technique in Longyu's body, the sphere of 9 hells. Therefore, although Jitao had 35 times the original energy density, her actual combat ability was slightly weaker than this. Although her combat ability was slightly weaker, Jitao felt that she could still resist a demigod of the 6-winged race with 38 times its original energy density. Although she could not resist the demigod for too long, she could at least buy some time for Longyu, which was enough. Then, let's go together. The three of them looked at each other and nodded. Easy Way, Consort Yu, and Moonsong also made up their minds when they saw that. Although the energy density of the 6 demigods of alien races was much higher than theirs, they would still die if they stayed here and waited for death. There was still a chance of survival if they went out to help. So, they might as well go out and fight. Even if they sacrificed themselves in exchange for the survival of others. So what? If they didn't go, they would die. If they went, they might not die. Everyone would make the choice that was most beneficial to them. Therefore, after Red Oriole, the Saint Emperor, and Jitao rushed out of the barrier of the universe, Consort Yu, Yizu Wei, and Moonsong also rushed out and went to where Longyu was. Longyu and the Saint Emperor were connected. Naturally, he knew what they were going to do. He was a little helpless about it, but he was also a little touched. He was helpless because they basically couldn't play a big role in such a battle, but he was touched because they chose to fight together. None of them flinched, which meant that Longyu didn't choose the wrong people. Even more people were watching from the Void of Stars. The Heaven Fire Doyen, with Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, were inside the barrier. The old man sighed, mainly because it was a pity that the sky imprisoning wings had been broken. But it couldn't be helped. The alien demigods were too strong. It was already beyond the Heaven Fire Doyen's expectation that Longyu could really kill the sword demigod. As for Qin Yashuang and Zi Su, they were very worried. In a battle of demigods, the two of them couldn't help at all. Unlike Consort Yu, who might be able to hold the alien demigods back, the two of them were only at the Great Dominator level. If they ran out, they would probably be killed by the enemy with a single touch. It would be an act of suicide. It was because of this feeling of helplessness that the two of them were even more worried. This worry wasn't just for Longyu or for themselves, but for all the living beings in the universe. Once the barrier was broken, the entire universe would be in trouble. For a long time, when Qin Yashuang and Zi Su followed the Heaven Fire Doyen and learned refining, they also made many friends in the universe. They didn't want these friends to die because of this. Of course, they were more worried about Longyu. After all, it was all thanks to Longyu that they were able to have this day, to be able to leave Shenwu world and see a wider world, to be able to learn the techniques of weapon crafting and formation. Without Longyu, they would still be stuck in a small world like the Nine Serenities realm. But now, they even had a vast small world of their own. Around the Heaven-Fire Doyen and the two women, cultivators, and living beings from other galaxies gathered. They leaned against the edge of the barrier and watched the situation outside. Everyone was praying for Long Yu and the others. Shui Luo, Boss Xiong, Su Yuqing, like Qing Feng, and the others led their respective Dominator army members and waited in the universe. It seemed that if something went wrong, they would rush out and fight the alien races. No matter what, everyone now understood that their lives were completely in the hands of Long Yu. If Long Yu could stop these demigods, then they could continue to live. But if Long Yu couldn't and died in the hands of these alien demigods, then the entire universe would be doomed. Therefore, at a critical moment, if the soldiers of the Dominator army had to be sacrificed, they wouldn't complain at all. Because in the universe, there were many years of good friends, comrades with whom they had fought countless times, and brothers and sisters with whom they had developed a force. No matter what, they couldn't all die here. The entire universe was united. Tens of thousands of living beings gathered at the edge of the divine spirit barrier. These beings were at least in the sovereign secret realm. If they were in the territories of the human race or the demon race, they could be said to be powerful existences. But now, they were just a part of the galaxy, and all of them were focused on the battle that Long Yu was facing. The chances of him winning were extremely low. Chapter 1653. In the galaxy, countless people were looking forward to it. Outside the boundary at the edge of the galaxy, Long Yu and the others were facing great pressure from the alien demigods. At this moment, Long Yu knew very well that there wouldn't be any reinforcements from the outside world. They could only rely on themselves to resist the attack of the alien races. Even the human race and the demon race couldn't come here to help. It wasn't a question of whether or not they would come, but whether or not it was necessary. The sword race, the six-winged race, and the machine race were the top alien races in the Langi galaxy. Their overall strength was extremely terrifying. Now that their target was Long Yu, even if the human race and the demon race sent out all their elites, it would be difficult for them to resist the joint attack of the three alien races. Besides, the human race and the demon race were fighting against the alien races and had no chance to reinforce Long Yu. Since we can only rely on ourselves, we can only fight for a slim chance of victory for Long Yu in the desperate situation with our own efforts. The remnant soul of the girl Ji Tao occupied the body of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. At this moment, her strength density was 35 times, and she was the only one who could fight the alien demigods head-on. Her target was the snow-white, six-winged race demigod whose strength density was 38 times. The others went to distract the weaker alien demigods, and the leader of the six-winged race was dealt with by Ji Tao. Although they couldn't hold on for too long, it was the best help for Long Yu. As long as Long Yu was free, it was possible to eliminate all the alien demigods one by one. Long Yu had created 8 devil dust clones on the field, which were used to stall the demigods of the alien races except for the leader of the mechanical race. It was almost his limit. Also, the 8 devil dust clones were showing signs that they couldn't hold on any longer. At this moment, the girls joined hands. The Saint Emperor and Long Yu were telepathically connected. He faced a demigod from the six-winged race who had 26 times the power density on his own. Under the attack of Long Yu's devil dust clone, the power density of the demigod from the six-winged race was reduced to 16 times. The Saint Emperor directly activated the fusion of the battle weapon, Dragon Bone 1,000 Feathers. With a thought from the Saint Emperor, the 1,000 dragon bone feathers fused together beside her. Then, 1,000 dragon bone feathers began to revolve around her. Every single feather possessed an extremely powerful presence. Even though her power density was 6 times lower than the six-winged race's demigod, she did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Coupled with the fact that Long Yu's devil dust clone was still at the side, the Sage Emperor was finally able to resist the powerful attack of the six-winged race. From the body of the six-winged race's clan leader, the power of golden divine runes kept on bursting out, forming a spatial turbulence that wanted to suck the Saint Emperor into it. However, at this moment, the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers had also awakened to the first level. The Dragonbone Thousand Feathers was a special weapon that even the powerful demigod of the sword race could not see through. It was a combination of two special absolute beginning divine grade weapons. Long Yu and the Sage Emperor had been fighting the enemy at the same time and had fused the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers together. After doing this a few times, the opportunity to awaken finally came. Screen of 1,000 Feathers. The Saint Emperor's awakened Dragonbone Thousand Feathers was a defensive technique that could activate the screen of 1,000 feathers. The 1,000 Dragonbone Feathers danced around her continuously. The trajectory of the powerful divine runes condensed into layers of the screen of 1,000 feathers. The defensive ability of the screen of 1,000 feathers was not very strong, but it had many layers. There were actually more than 1,000 layers. There's a saying in the human race that a chopstick could be easily broken, but if there was a bundle of chopsticks, it would take many times more effort to break it. The screen of 1,000 feathers was exactly the same. The 1,000 Dragonbone Feathers turned into a screen of 1,000 feathers and kept condensing around the Sage Emperor, covering her in a huge white eggshell. The demigod of the six-winged race launched several waves of attacks at her, but all of them were blocked by the screen of 1,000 feathers. Although the attacks of the six-winged race could break through hundreds of layers of the screen of 1,000 feathers, they could not penetrate it completely and hurt the Sage Emperor, who was protected inside. Under such circumstances, the Sage Emperor finally stabilized the situation. If it were not for the fact that Long Yu's Devil Dust clone and the Dragonbone Thousand Feathers had just awakened the screen of 1,000 feathers, it would have been too difficult for the Sage Emperor to resist the demigod alone. On the battlefield, other than the Sage Emperor, the situation of the others was not very good. The girl Ji Tao occupied the body of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. The huge body of the long black dragon moved in the void and triggered the power of space at any time and place. The power of the revelation-level divine language of the netherworld kept emitting energy waves and brought her to the front of the snow-white demigod of the six-winged race. This demigod was originally besieged by the 4 Devil Dust clones of Long Yu and was about to completely suppress the 4 Devil Dust clones. However, at this moment, Ji Tao arrived. Carrying the body of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor, the divine language of the netherworld rushed out, and the divine language of the netherworld was activated instantly. Like the reaping light beam of the god of death, the divine language of the netherworld shattered the void and bombarded the body of the snow-white six-winged race. However, the demigod of the six-winged race was not so easy to deal with. This was an existence with a power density of 38 times. Although it was suppressed by the demon dust doppelganger and was only left with a power density of 28 times, it had many more tricks up its sleeves than Ji Tao, who possessed the 9 Abyss Dragon Emperor's body. This phantom, Ji Tao's divine language of the netherworld, suddenly rushed over and bombarded the back of the six-winged race. However, a huge snow-white phantom of the six-winged race appeared behind the six-winged race. This phantom was a defensive phantom. As soon as it appeared, it spread its 6 wings and absorbed the light beam of the netherworld into its 6 wings. After that, the light beam was completely digested. This method was one of the netherworld's divine language of the netherworld. It could allow the snow-white phantom of the six-winged race to devour all energy attacks and even absorb them for its own use. In the next moment, a pitch-black light beam of energy burst out from the 6 wings of the phantom and bombarded toward Ji Tao. For a moment, a terrifying force surged in the field, and a big hole was blasted on the body of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. If it was not for the secret martial arts technique of the Devil Dust Heart, it would have been seriously injured by this attack. Although the strength density of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor's body had surpassed that of the demigod of the six-winged race under the suppression of the Devil Dust clone's Jade branding mark, Ji Tao had too few tricks up her sleeves, which was vividly reflected in this battle. The opponents used all kinds of tricks. Even though Ji Tao had the advantage of strength density, she was still suppressed and could not fight back at all. It was the same in other directions. The Saint Emperor fought one demigod of the six-winged race alone, while the other four dealt with the other three demigods of the alien races. Consort, you fought another demigod of the six-winged race alone. Red Oriole, on the other hand, resisted a demigod of the machine race that had a strength density of 25 times. Moon Song and Yi Ziwei worked together to resist the attack of another demigod of the machine race. Although the situation was temporarily stabilized, the overall situation was still in a complete disadvantage. No matter which side of the battlefield it was on, there was no opportunity to win at all. Therefore, the final and most crucial battlefield was still on Long Yu's side. Long Yu was faced with the strongest demigod of the mechanical race in the enemy's lineup, which had 39 times the strength density. The battle had reached a critical stage. To be honest, Long Yu did not expect that all the people in the galaxy would come out at such a time. Even if each of them could only resist for a short time, they had to sacrifice themselves to create an opportunity for Long Yu and fight for that slim chance of victory for him. If Long Yu could not kill the demigod of the machine race in front of him in a short time, then all the other women would be in danger. Moreover, what Long Yu needed was not only to kill this demigod of the machine race in a short time, but also to kill the demigod of the six-winged race that had a strength density of 38 times. That meant that he could not waste any time at all. Kill! When the others rushed out of the galaxy to buy time for Long Yu, he had already made up his mind to kill. He turned the boundless killing prison of 4 symbols in the space where he was and spread out to the surroundings. He had unleashed all the power of this forbidden technique of the ancient gods in such an urgent situation at this moment. Although it still could not be improved from the greater mastery to the peak, its power was completely unleashed under Long Yu's complete concentration. For divine symbols that carried the air of death corroded the body of the machine non-stop. Although the life form of the machine race was metal, it still contained the existence of a soul, and the main method of damage of the killing prison of 4 symbols was to target the consciousness and soul. At the same time, Long Yu's dark flame ghost also moved out continuously. It turned into chains made of pitch-black flames and chased after the demigod of the machine race that was trying to escape. The demigod of the machine race was not running away. It was just looking for an opportunity to counterattack Long Yu in an extremely agile way while avoiding being injured. For this demigod of the machine race, it was not easy to deal with Long Yu. It had thought that when it broke the sky imprisoning Wing's array and rescued the other demigods from it, the human brat would be dead for sure. It did not expect that so many demigods would jump out of the galaxy. Although they were all new demigods, with the help of a certain weird ancient god tattoo of this human brat, the new demigods were able to stall its compatriots and the demigod of the six-winged clan. Now that it was the only one left to deal with Long Yu, it became extremely cautious and did not dare to attack recklessly. It kept in mind the scene where the demigod of the sword race that had a power density 38 times higher than before was killed by Long Yu. Before Long Yu used that move, it would not act recklessly. In any case, this machine understood that the overall situation on the battlefield was still very favorable to it. On the other battlefields, the demigods of the six-winged clan and the machine race had gradually gained control of the battle. It was only a matter of time before they won. It only needed to stall for the time being and wait for the others to come to help. Then, they would be able to deal with this human brat easily. Under the situation where the continuous attacks were futile, Long Yu was also a little anxious. At this time, he thought of something that he had left behind and hadn't used yet. It was a divine pill that he had obtained from the eroding moon ancient domain. The divine pill that could increase the density of power that he had kept. Chapter 1654. Earlier, when Long Yu asked the self-consciousness of the medicine cauldron of misery sea that Liao Lele possessed to distinguish the 2 elixirs, one of which could double the density of strength. However, at that time, Long Yu was not very clear about what exactly the doubling of strength meant. Now that he thought about it, there could be two meanings behind it. One of them was to double the density of strength of the trainers after they took it. For example, Long Yu's current density of strength could be increased to 16 times after he took the elixir. The other possibility was to double Long Yu's density of strength from 15 to 30 times. Long Yu had thought that the elixir should have the second effect. After all, it was a rare elixir that he got from the eroding Moon Ancient domain, and the other elixir he took earlier had the same effect. However, it seemed that the elixir that could increase the density of strength should be the first one. Otherwise, such an elixir would be too horrifying for demigods. If he took it when the density of strength was 50 times, wouldn't his strength be increased to 100 times? Now, Long Yu took out the elixir precisely because he wanted to test the effect of the elixir. Whatever the effect was, it could be of help to Long Yu in his current situation. At that time, Long Yu hadn't stepped into the demigod level yet, and he didn't ask the self-consciousness of the medicine cauldron of Misery Sea. He somewhat regretted it now, but it didn't matter. Faced with the demigod of the mechanical race, Long Yu couldn't kill the enemy immediately, but the enemy couldn't kill Long Yu either. The two parties could only be on par with each other. The only difference was that Long Yu needed to kill the enemy quickly, and the enemy could win the battle as long as he could buy himself more time. Taking the elixir also increased the possibility of Long Yu winning the battle as soon as possible. Although the possibility was not high, it was better than nothing. Without any hesitation, Long Yu consumed the elixir. Immediately after, he felt a strange tightening force emanating from the elixir. It began to compress the power within his body. However, the degree of compression was rather limited, causing Long Yu to frown slightly. If the effects of this god-tier pill were limited to this, it would be extremely difficult to even double his power density, let alone double it. Right when Long Yu found it strange, the consciousness of Dragonbone Thousand Feathers suddenly sent a telepathic thought to him. This pill is an auxiliary pill for training. After taking it, it will increase the speed of your training as a demigod, instead of compressing the density of your strength to a higher level. To put it simply, this pill is absolutely useless for you right now. After receiving this message, Long Yu was speechless and a little puzzled. As it turned out, the effect of this god-tier pill was to increase the speed of Long Yu's training. Right now, his power density was 15 times. After taking this god-tier pill, his training speed would be increased by at least 30% before his power density reached 30 times. After Long Yu's power density reached 30 times, the effect of this god-tier pill would disappear, and Long Yu's training speed would return to its original level. The effect of this elixir was indeed useless to Long Yu at the moment. If he had known this earlier, he would have taken this elixir a month ago. In that case, the density of his power would probably be close to 20 times, and it would not be so difficult for him to deal with the demigods of the alien races. Sadly, back then, he didn't think too much of this divine pill. He only thought that it would be more effective to consume this divine pill at a later stage. Now, it seems like he was completely wrong. This god-tier pill seems to be able to increase my power density very quickly with the 9 exterminations of Sky Nether. It's a pity that it's useless to take it now. Fortunately, it's not a waste to take this god-tier pill now. Thinking to himself, Long Yu then turned his attention back to the battle. Since the god-tier pill could not increase his power density now, there was no need for him to pay attention to it now, even if it would be a waste of the god-tier pill. In his mind, the importance of the entire Void Galaxy was obviously greater than this god-tier pill. Therefore, the most important thing for him at the moment was to win this battle. The weakness of the machinery race is that they have a power core that can repair itself. This power core is different from the elixir field of the human race and the demon core of the demon race. This power core is made of metal elements. Even the bodies of the entire machinery race are filled with metal elements. Long Yu began to look for a breakthrough point in the battle based on the characteristics of the machinery race. It was obvious that the bodies of the machinery race were different from those of the human race and the demon race. Flesh and metal could even be seen as two extremes. Such an existence had a power core of metal in its body. As long as this power core was destroyed, the opponent would be completely killed. Long Yu had never had any experience dealing with foreign races of the machine race. The only time he had been chased by an expert of the machine race in the advanced zone of the eroding moon ancient region was when he had been chased by the machine race's divine ability mechanical stealth. At that time, his opponent had failed. The demigod of the machine race that Long Yu was facing right now was a super expert whose strength density was 39 times that of the machine race. It was much, much stronger than the great dominator of the machine race that Long Yu had encountered in the Eclipse Moon ancient region. If I had fought with the machinery race head-on back then, I might have been able to see some of their weaknesses now. While thinking, Long Yu immediately activated the secret martial arts technique, balance control, and enveloped himself with the light of balance. In the process of fighting against the demigod of the machinery race, Long Yu had always maintained an extremely strong sense of perception. The power density of the two sides was not very different. Therefore, after Long Yu used the light of balance, he could completely grasp the movements and even the flow of power in his opponent's body. In this way, no matter what the opponent was going to do, Long Yu would be able to vaguely know a little bit in advance. Through the flow of power in his opponent's body, although Long Yu did not know exactly what the opponent was going to do, he could tell what kind of technique the opponent was going to use. For example, he could predict in advance whether it was going to be an attack, a defense, or something like that. Sphere of Tartarus. Long Yu no longer had any more energy to condense more demon dust clones, so he could only use the power of his main body to activate the Sphere of Tartarus. Afterwards, countless pitch-black rays of light shot toward the surroundings of the machinery race. The influence of the Sphere of Tartarus was not directed at the machinery race. Instead, it was directed at the surroundings of the machinery race before gradually encircling it, causing the machinery race to gradually fall into an area where time flowed 10 times slower. Absolute space domain. The Saint Emperor fused the Dragonbone 1,000 feathers in his hands, and he was currently fighting against the demigod of the six-winged race, whose power density was 25 times higher. However, under Long Yu's control, he also activated a layer of absolute space domain, enveloping the demigod of the machinery race, whose power density was 39 times higher. Afterwards, the 1,000 Dragonbone 1,000 feathers gathered beside the Saint Emperor once again, passing through the void between the two of them. There was no obstruction at all. Due to the fusion of special divine quality absolute beginning items, their consciousnesses could be connected. Now, they could achieve a flawless battle. They could know each other's thoughts with a single thought, so they would not waste time on communication. Now that the absolute space domain had been activated by the fused Dragonbone 1,000 feathers, it had an absolute ability to lock down space. Unless the opponent had some special methods or was much stronger than Long Yu, it was impossible for them to escape from the absolute space domain. Now, the absolute space domain had completely overlapped with the area where time flowed slower. In other words, no matter what, the machinery race would not be able to escape from the area where time flowed slower before it broke through the absolute space domain. In this way, Long Yu's speed was 10 times faster than his opponent's, and he could easily suppress his opponent's attacks. Next, the machine began to receive Long Yu's relentless attacks. For symbols Death Prison, Dark Flame, Ghostly Chains, these two techniques alternated between each other as they blasted towards the machine, bombarding it indiscriminately. The power of death lingered around the machinery race demigod, forcing him to continuously use defensive methods to deal with it. In fact, because he was in the area where time flowed slower, the activation of his defensive methods was 10 times slower than usual. If he was not careful, the power of death would corrode him. If Long Yu was the machinery race demigod, there was only one thing he needed to do right now, and that was to gather all his strength to break through the blockade of the absolute space domain. Otherwise, he could only be exhausted to death. Of course, now that Long Yu was continuously activating powerful methods, his own small world was gradually becoming unstable. In addition, the activation of the Eight Extremities bloodline had caused some space-time cracks to appear in the small world. At this moment, if he did not end the battle quickly, the damage to Long Yu's small world would become extremely serious, and it might even affect the operation of his small world and the new martial world. It might even cause some flaws to appear on his 8 innate mystique fruits. This was the consequence of using too much power after reaching the demigod realm. Although he could use his methods without limit and did not have to worry about running out of power, the pressure from the small world could not be ignored. And just as Long Yu had thought, the machinery race very quickly began to search for an opportunity to break through the absolute space domain in the face of Long Yu's attacks. At this moment, Long Yu had precisely grasped the location of the power core within the machinery race's body through his balance control power. He did not immediately launch an attack, but continued to corrode it with the power of the dark flame, ghostly chains, and the four symbols killing prison, constantly obstructing the machinery race from breaking through the absolute space domain. Chapter 1655. Time went by. Outside the battlefield of Long Yu and the powerful demigod of the machine race, the new demigods in the galaxy were in a bad situation. Red Oriole was probably the one in the worst situation. She was fighting against the demigod of the machine race, whose strength density was 25 times that of the machine race. She had already locked Long Yu's Devil Dust clone with countless mechanical tentacles. Then, the demigod of the machine race used all kinds of techniques to deal with Red Oriole. For the time being, the strength density of the demigod of the machine race was still suppressed to 15 times that of the machine race. However, if Long Yu couldn't finish off his opponent soon and come to help, the Devil Dust clone wouldn't be able to continue applying the effect of the Jade branding mark on him. If the demigod's power density had been restored to 25 times that of normal, Red Oriole would have been killed almost instantly. There would be no suspense at all. For the machine race, humans and demons were alien races. They wouldn't show any mercy to the fairer sex. If they could kill them, they would. Long Yu saw Red Oriole's situation. The others were fine for now, mainly because the Devil Dust clone was continuously applying the effect of the Jade branding mark and suppressing the opponent's strength density. Otherwise, the machine race in the galaxy would have been completely defeated. As for Jitao and the demigod of the six-winged race, they were still in a relatively balanced situation. Under the suppression of Long Yu's 4 Devil Dust clones, the demigod of the six-winged race could barely cause any damage to the body of Jitao's Juyo, Dragon Emperor. However, Jitao's most powerful technique, which was the godly martial technique, condensing spiritual light, couldn't pose any threat to the demigod of the six-winged race. The Snow-White demigod of the six-winged race wanted to move the battlefield to help the demigod of the machine race deal with Long Yu. Unfortunately, it was firmly pinned down by Jitao and the Devil Dust clone, so it couldn't help. Under such circumstances, if Long Yu still couldn't kill the machine, it would be too unfair to the others. This is the moment. Long Yu carefully observed the movements of the automaton. When the automaton finally felt the pressure of Long Yu's offensive and was about to break through the absolute space domain, Long Yu decided to make his move. When the other party was breaking through, it would definitely be the most relaxed moment. If they attacked at this time, they would catch the other party off guard. If they could kill this mech, this would be the best opportunity. If they lost this opportunity, it would be much more difficult to kill this mech. Even if they could catch up and kill the other party, Red Oriole would be in great danger. Ball of the Netherworld, descend. Just as the power of the divine runes of the metal element exploded forth, destroying the entire absolute space domain and attempting to escape, Long Yu finally unleashed the divinized divine ability that he had been preparing for a long time. The shadow of a giant black dragon emerged from the void and spat out a giant black ball. It was a 9-nether ball. As soon as it appeared, it controlled the entire body of the machine. From this divinized ball of the netherworld divine ability, time turbulence surged out, dragging the consciousness of the mech into the gap of time turbulence. I only have 3 breaths of time. Long Yu was very clear about the effects of the divinized ball of the netherworld divine ability. Thus, he did not waste any time and launched his final attack on the mech. However, he noticed that when the consciousness of the mech was dragged into the gap of time turbulence, the effect of an ancient god mark in the ancient god brain domain seemed to be activated. This made Long Yu a little wary of it. Before he was clear about the specific effects of this ancient god mark, he would not easily say that he could kill the other party. It was very likely that this mech had the same powerful methods as the sword race and could help him find a chance of survival in a desperate situation. Dark Flame, Ghostly Chains, 4 symbols, Death Prison, Hell-Shaking Divine Rune, Infinite Grasp. Long Yu consecutively used 3 powerful methods. Because he had been staring at the core of the mech's power, all 3 types of power were now rushing towards the core of the mech's power. The Dark Flame, Ghostly Chains erupted with a terrifying power at this moment. It actually produced some kind of change at this moment. A wisp of seemingly inconspicuous black flame followed a unique path through the gap of the mech's body. It broke into the mech's body and ignited many of the organs that were made up of metal elements. The metal elemental organs that were burned by this wisp of black flame were instantly turned to ashes. The 4 types of killing aura of the 4 symbols Death Prison also instantly eroded towards the core of the mech's power. Long Yu had already grasped the movements within the mech's body through balance control. At this moment, the power of the 4 symbols Death Prison penetrated through the gaps of the mech's power without any obstruction and entered the core of the mech's power. The Infinite Grasp was activated with the Eternal Hell-Shaking Divine Rune. It instantly had an ancient aura that directly shattered the void and appeared in the mech's power core. Then the 3rd part of the Infinite Grasp erupted. The Hell-Shaking Divine Rune exploded within the mech's power core and began to destroy the power core that was made up of metal elements. The power of the Hell-Shaking Divine Rune and the 4 symbols Death Prison very quickly destroyed a portion of the power core. However, at this moment, a power seemed to seep out of the mech's ancient god's mind and actually plated the power core with a layer of golden light. Under the protection of this layer of golden light, the power core was completely unharmed. The destructive power of the Hell-Shaking Divine Rune and the 4 symbols Death Prison was completely absorbed by this layer of golden light. Then, through the effect of some secret martial arts technique, the power core began to rapidly recover. The metal elements that were destroyed by the Hell-Shaking Divine Rune and the 4 symbols Death Prison were also quickly recovered. It was also at this moment that a wisp of black flame came out of the Dark Flame Ghost. It finally burned all the important parts of the Dark Flame Ghost body and finally reached the place where the power core was located. Under the burning of that wisp of black flame, it actually burned the layer of golden light that was protecting it. This is the power of the ancient god's rune. It's actually being burned by this black flame. Long Yu was truly shocked at this moment. He didn't expect the Dark Flame Ghost to be able to awaken a brand new power. Although he had already mastered all the power of the Dark Flame Ghost, this divine source item still contained some of the techniques of its previous owner. If he had the chance, he would be able to comprehend and use them. High-level modified divine source items would only be born after the death of a demigod expert with a power density of at least 80 times or more. An existence with a power density of 80 times. What kind of level was that? It could be said that it was the leader and the strongest expert among the powerful races like the sword race, the six-winged race, and the machine race. How could such an existence not have some sort of trump card? Right now, the power of the Dark Flame Ghost that Long Yu was activating, Long Yu could feel that it was called Dark Flame's fault. It seemed to be the specialty of this divine source item when it was alive. It could use the power of the Dark Flame Divine Rune to incinerate everything. Even the power of the Ancient God's Rune would only be incinerated under the attack of the Dark Flame's fault. Unless it was a power or material of the same level as the Dark Flame's fault, it would not be incinerated. However, although the Dark Flame's fault was powerful, its power was too minute. It was so minute that only a wisp of black flame came out of the dark flame ghost. Right now, Long Yu was only able to use the power of the dark flame's fault by chance. It could be said that it was a sudden comprehension in a life-and-death battle. Although he could still use the dark flame's fault later on, he could only use a small wisp of its power every time. If this wisp of power was used to attack the machine race demigod directly, it would not have any effect at all. Although the other party was unable to extinguish it, the power of the dark flame fault would also be annihilated after burning a certain amount of matter. It could only be used at the right time at a critical moment to produce a miraculous effect. To put it simply, although this power was very powerful, the amount that could be used at one time was too little. Normally, it would not be able to produce any critical effect at all. However, right now, the power that Long Yu was using to deal with the opponent's core was just right. The opponent's core was protected by the ancient god's rune. When it suffered a fatal attack, it would condense a layer of golden light for defense. This layer of golden light was almost an absolute defense for demigods of a certain level. However, when faced with the dark flame's fault, it did not have any ability to resist at all. When the layer of golden light was completely burned by the dark flame's fault, the power of the dark flame's fault was also consumed and annihilated. However, the opponent's core finally had no resistance or defense at all. The power of Long Yu's 4 symbols killing prison corroded continuously. Very soon, the opponent's core was completely corroded, and the vitality within was completely cut off. The consciousness of the machine-raced demigod was dragged into the gap of the turbulent streams of time. After 3 breaths, the opponent's consciousness returned to its original body. It immediately felt that something was wrong, but it was too late. The core of its power had been completely corroded, and the power of the death prison of 4 symbols had spread to its entire body, causing all its power to start to dissipate. Its entire body, which was made of metallic elements, was instantly corroded by the power of the death prison of 4 symbols. In the end, only the wreckage of a small world was left where it was. As for its metal body, it was devoured by Long Yu's sphere of 9 serenities. Even though Long Yu's sphere of 9 serenities had devoured the body of a machine that had 39 times the power density, there were not too many obvious changes, which made Long Yu feel that it was a pity. However, this was not the time for him to feel pity. When he grasped the dark flame's fault, which was one of the divine source items, he knew that his strength had once again increased to a higher level. He had to kill all the remaining alien demigods first. Die, all of you! Long Yu teleported to Red Oriole's side first. At this moment, the machine race demigod had just recovered to 25 times the power density. It was about to kill Red Oriole when it suddenly discovered that Long Yu had appeared in front of it. Chapter 1656. Originally, the demigod of the machine race that Red Oriole was facing had finally been freed from the pressure of the star branding mark, because it had sealed Long Yu's Devil Dust clone, and its power density had been restored by 25 times. It intended to kill Red Oriole first, and then help the demigods of its kind in other directions. Unfortunately, at this moment, Long Yu finally killed the demigod of the machine race whose strength density was 39 times and arrived at the battlefield. Sphere of Tartarus. 4 symbols death prison. Long Yu performed 2 skills in a row, and the demigod of the machine race was dragged into the area where time was slowed down by the Sphere of Tartarus. Before it realized what was going on, it had been enveloped by the power of the 4 symbols death prison. The killing power of the dark flame ghost arrived one after another. The pitch-black and fatal flames enshrouded the demigod of the machine race. Painful mechanical roars came out of it, as if countless metals were exploding inside. An ear-piercing noise came into everyone's ears through the void. However, the ear-piercing noise did not last for long. Very soon, as Long Yu's Sphere of Tartarus completely swallowed the machine race, it completely disappeared from this world. Only the remains of the small world were left, which Long Yu took away. Afterward, he could find something useful for the development of the Void Galaxy. Are you alright? After killing the demigod of the machine race, Long Yu stopped in front of Red Oriole. He was quite distressed to find that Red Oriole had suffered a lot of injuries. Thankfully, she had also practiced the secret martial arts technique Devil Dust Heart that Long Yu taught her. Although she had not reached the highest level of the 9th level, it was still very fast for her to reconstruct her body. Such injuries should not be a big deal. I'm fine. Go help the others first. Red Oriole nodded. She had already been relieved when she saw Long Yu. Now that her opponent had been swallowed by Long Yu, she was completely relaxed and began to recover from her injuries. As for other aspects of the battlefield, since Long Yu had freed up his hands, there was no longer any problem. Red Oriole had always had an almost blind faith in Long Yu, which was why she had disregarded her own safety and flown out of the galaxy to fight for a chance at victory for Long Yu. After receiving Red Oriole's reply, Long Yu turned his attention to the other battlefields. Needless to say, after Long Yu killed the demigod of the machine race whose strength density was 39 times higher, all the alien demigods were already panicking. They knew very well what kind of being could kill that demigod of the machine race. When Long Yu was free, what else could they do? For a moment, the alien demigods all wanted to run away. Only the Snow-White six-winged race, whose energy density was 38 times, did not have the thought of escaping, because it knew very well what the biggest weakness of the demigod-level cultivators was. It was that some of the more powerful methods would cause the small world to collapse after being used too many times. Therefore, it carefully observed the current Long Yu, but could not see any signs of Long Yu's small world collapsing. However, it did not want to run away. Instead, it wanted to take a gamble. Because this was a private mission, it had the opportunity to be sent to this remote area to fish for some benefits. After all, in this remote area, it was an extremely powerful existence. Maybe there were some precious things in these galaxies that it could bring back, which would be of great use to it and its clansmen. Having 6 snow-white wings meant that it did not have a high position in the six-winged clan. Even if it was a cultivator with a power density of 38 times, it would not be able to occupy a lot of cultivation resources in the six-winged clan. Most of the cultivation resources in the six-winged clan were occupied by the gold-winged and silver-winged cultivators. Therefore, if it wanted to advance to the next level, it needed to seize every opportunity. Now it was a great opportunity for it. That human kid had a high-level modified quasi-divine source item. Once it had this high-level source item, its overall position in the six-winged race would rise by at least a level when it returned. At the very least, it would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with those super experts with a power density of 60 times. It was very jealous of the Dark Flame Ghost. Moreover, it had seen Long Yu kill 2 powerful demigods in a row. The demigods of the sword race and the machine race were not any weaker than this six-winged race. Although it could not sense it, it was sure that Long Yu was in a very bad state right now. He might not be able to use some of his methods anymore. Once he used them, his small world would very likely collapse completely. At that time, he would be no different from death. It had made up its mind that once Long Yu used a powerful method, it would immediately retreat and let Long Yu die and his small world collapse. Then, it would come back and take over everything that belonged to Long Yu. Now that Long Yu was dealing with the machine race, this six-winged race expert did not make a move for the time being. While it was fighting against Ji Tao, it constantly observed all of Long Yu's actions. Even the slightest changes were all noticed by it. Long Yu first dealt with the demigods of the alien races that were relatively weaker. After all, the situation had stabilized now. He had to ensure that everyone could safely survive this battle and not let any accidents happen to anyone. Ji Tao's side was still stable for the time being, so he left the Snow-White six-winged race demigod for the last. Right now, it was already very easy for Long Yu to deal with the demigods of the alien races that had a power density of more than 20 times. However, other than the first time he dealt with Red Oriole, he did not use the 4 symbols Killing Prison and the Sphere of 9 Serenities. Instead, he only used the Dark Flame Ghost to kill his opponents. The reason was that Long Yu's small world had indeed begun to collapse. After he stepped into the demigod realm, his small world had expanded to a radius of 100 billion kilometers. Within it, there were his 8 innate fruits of techniques and the continent of the Shenwu world. At this moment, some space cracks had even appeared near the continent of the Shenwu world. The existence of these space cracks forced Long Yu to move the continent of the Shenwu world to a safer place. Including the innate fruits of techniques, they were also in a rather dangerous environment. However, the innate fruits of techniques could not be moved. Once they encountered the space cracks, they would very likely be damaged. If the innate fruits of techniques were damaged, it would have a great impact on Long Yu's body. It was no longer just a problem of affecting his combat ability. Therefore, for now, he could only stop using the more powerful methods, mainly the 4 symbols killing prison and the sphere of 9 serenities. It was not a big problem for the sphere of 9 serenities to maintain the area where the flow of time was slowed down. However, if he wanted to keep creating areas where the flow of time was slowed down, it would be a bit of a burden on Long Yu's small world. Fortunately, the Dark Flame Ghost Chain alone was already enough for Long Yu to deal with the alien demigods whose strength density was more than 20 times. He did not need the 4 symbols killing prison and the sphere of 9 serenities to crush them all the same. Besides, he did not dare to summon too many methods, including the Devil Dust clones. As long as he killed one alien demigod, he would dismiss the Devil Dust clones that he used to deal with the alien demigod and gradually relieve the pressure that the small world was facing from collapsing. Very soon, Long Yu cleaned up the 2 machine demigods and the 2 6-winged race demigods on the battlefield. In the end, only the 6-winged race demigod with 38 times the strength density was still fighting with Ji Tao. On the side of the galaxy, everyone had suffered injuries that were neither light nor heavy. Right now, they were all treating their wounds on the spot. As for Long Yu, he finally took over Ji Tao, who was already covered in wounds, and came to the front of the snow-white 6-winged race demigod with 38 times the strength density. All the Devil Dust clones on the battlefield were dismissed by Long Yu. They recovered the strength in his body and slightly stabilized the overall structure of the small world. The others were all treating their wounds. Looking at Long Yu and the snow-white 6-winged race demigod who was confronting him, they looked forward to Long Yu's final victory. Although the body of the Geo Dragon Emperor that Ji Tao had turned into was covered in wounds, it did not retreat. It was still not far away from Long Yu to support him. Once the 2 of them started fighting, it was very likely that Ji Tao would intervene at the critical moment and tilt the balance of victory even more in Long Yu's favor. Long Yu stared at the snow-white demigod of the 6-winged race. Long Yu's energy density was 38 times. If it was Long Yu at his peak state, he wouldn't need to be afraid. But it was a pity that he had to be careful at all times to guard against the opponent's means. Most importantly, Long Yu's own powerful means were limited. If it were not for the fact that he had no other choice, he did not want to use the Divine-Eyes technique of the 9 Serenities ball again. Long Yu carefully observed the snow-white 6-winged race demigod. When he was fighting against the machinery race, he had also observed the situation here. Therefore, he had some understanding of the combat style of this 6-winged race demigod. However, it was obvious that this 6-winged race demigod didn't use its full strength when it was fighting against the body of the Geo Dragon Emperor that Ji Tao had occupied. It had also focused all its attention on Long Yu. It was just that it was distracted by Ji Tao and could not go over to deal with Long Yu. Right now, the 2 of them had a similar understanding of each other. Since this fellow isn't running away, it must have realized that I'm unable to unleash my full strength. However, even so, it shouldn't be too difficult for me to kill it. Since that's the case, let's begin. As Long Yu thought to himself, 1,000 dragon skeleton feathers began to circle around him. The first awakening skill that the Dragonbone 1,000 Feathers, a special fusion weapon, awakened was a defensive method, the Screen of 1,000 Feathers. Compared to the ordinary absolute beginning divine quality weapons, it was much more practical. Now that the Saint Emperor was resting, the Dragonbone 1,000 Feathers was in Long Yu's hands to help him continue fighting. Let's go. There was an indescribable tacit understanding between Long Yu and the dragon-bone Thousand Feathers. Almost at the moment when Long Yu made up his mind to go forward, the screen of Thousand Feathers instantly opened and protected Long Yu's entire body. Today's update. Chapter 16:57. Long Yu was surrounded by the Thousand Feathers of Dragon Skeleton. When the Thousand Feathers screen spread out, he seemed to be surrounded by countless birds. He quickly teleported toward the snow-white demigod from the six-winged race in the void. Absolute space field. Long Yu raised his hand, and the power of the Thousand Feathers of Dragon Skeleton spread out instantly. A layer of absolute space field was set up between him and the demigod from the six-winged race. Under such circumstances, it would not be easy for the opponent to escape. However, at this moment, the wings on the back of the snow-white six-winged race spread out, and 4 identical clones flew out from under the wings. This was a method of condensing clones. However, it was not as powerful as Long Yu's Devil Dust clone. The clones condensed were much weaker than the original body. If Long Yu was in his peak condition, he would be able to use his Devil Dust doppelganger to break his opponent's move, rendering his opponent's doppelganger useless. However, he was currently in a weakened state, and his small world could collapse at any moment. It was impossible for him to use his Devil Dust doppelganger. However, he did not panic. Instead, he directly activated the Dark Flame Ghost Chain and spread it toward the opponent. Countless iron chains that were burning with pitch-black flames soon entangled the few clones of the six-winged race. The pitch-black flames contaminated the 4 clones of the six-winged race and continuously eroded their bodies. Soon, their pure white wings were dyed in pitch-black flames. Seizing the opportunity, the demigod from the six-winged race launched the fiercest attack at Long Yu. The gigantic phantom of the six-winged clan flashed and appeared behind Long Yu's back. Long Yu unleashed his Divinized Divine ability, and countless snow-white divine runes appeared in the void from all directions. After that, they surged towards Long Yu. It was as if endless waves were surging towards him, enveloping his entire body. Dragon Feather, it's all up to you now. I'll find a chance to disrupt the opponent's formation. Long Yu thought to himself. Then, while the Thousand Feather screen was opened, he continuously withstood the attacks from the snow-white, flowing lights of divine characters around him. Layers of defensive barriers were destroyed one after another, but they were constantly being condensed and restored. The Thousand Feathers of the Dragonbone Ancient Tower was a special absolute beginning divine grade. It was a combination of the Dragonbone Ancient Tower and the Thousand Feathers of the Flight. Although it had only awakened to the first level, it was still extremely powerful. At the same time, Long Yu started to think about how to kill this six-winged clan member. Just like the human race and the demon race, the six-winged race had a body of flesh and blood. They were not special existences like the machine race or the soul race. Therefore, it was relatively easy to find the energy core within their bodies. Long Yu activated the balanced light and quickly found the energy core within the six-winged race's body through the snow-white flowing light of the divine characters. There it is. Looks like I have no choice but to use my divine ability. Long Yu's heart skipped a beat. After locating the energy core of the other party, he discovered that there were many energy shields surrounding it. They were similar to that of the sword race being from before. However, these energy shields weren't that hard to deal with for Long Yu. After all, not only did he know the special ability of the Thousand Feathers of the Dragonbone Ancient Tower, but he also possessed the Dark Flame Fault. He could burn the flesh of the other party all the way to the energy core and break through the energy shields. However, in order to achieve this, he had to make the other party unable to resist. Long Yu could only use the divine ability of the Ball of 9 Underworlds. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to touch the energy core of the other party. The other party would definitely think of a way to deal with the energy that was a threat to him. Unless the other party was unconscious, the only method that Long Yu could use was the divine ability of the Ball of 9 Underworlds. Even if his small world was in danger, This was the only choice that Long Yu could make. Otherwise, it would be too difficult for him to kill the other party with his current energy density. Neither the Four Symbols Killing Prison nor the Dark Flame Ghost had the ability to directly crush the other party to death. But in that case, your small world, the Sage Emperor who was connected to Long Yu sent a worried telepathic thought through the consciousness of the 1,000 feathers of the Dragon Bow and Ancient Tower. There's no other way. No matter what happens to the small world, that's a matter for the future. I will protect the living beings of Shunwu World. As for the rest, we can only leave it to fate. Long Yu sent back telepathic thought. As long as we kill this demigod of the six-winged race, we'll have a chance to catch our breath. The next time they send another demigod, my power will be even greater. Long Yu was currently in a period of rapid growth. As long as he was given some time, he would be able to easily increase his energy density. This was not only because he had cultivated the 9 extremes of Sky Nether, but also because of the effect of the divine pill that he had taken, which allowed his cultivation speed to increase by 1-fold before he reached 30 times the energy density. This was an excellent opportunity for improvement. Therefore, Long Yu had finally made up his mind to perish together with the other party. Good luck. After knowing Long Yu's plan, the Sage Emperor didn't stop Long Yu because she knew that this was the only way for Long Yu to kill the other party. As long as this demigod of the six-winged race was killed, everything would be settled. At the very least, it would buy some time for the Void Galaxy to develop. In the field, under the watchful eyes of countless people, Long Yu finally launched his attack. The fierce attacks of the demigod of the six-winged race were all blocked by the 1,000-feather screen. Right when the 1,000-feather screen was about to be broken by the immemorial divine characters, the aura of death spread out from Long Yu's body, and the shadow of a black dragon appeared behind him. Sphere of 9 Serenities. Long Yu directly activated this divine eyes technique. The other party didn't expect that Long Yu would activate such a terrifying divine eyes technique when the small world was about to collapse. For a moment, he didn't have time to react and was directly affected by the sphere of 9 serenities that was formed in the void. The consciousness of the entire demigod of the six-winged race was instantly dragged into the gap of the turbulent flow of time. However, Long Yu discovered that there was still a trace of connection between the body and the consciousness of the other party. Although the consciousness of the other party was dragged into the gap of the turbulent flow of time, there was still a small part of the consciousness left in the body. This small part of the consciousness didn't belong to the demigod of the six-winged race, but to some other creature. However, at this moment, this small part of the consciousness controlled the body of the demigod of the six-winged race and directly fled into the distance. Unfortunately, Long Yu had set up the absolute space field in the field in advance. How could the other party escape from this area? Boundless Grasp. Long Yu directly activated the Boundless Grasp. The immortal-level hell-shaking divine characters moved abruptly and condensed into an invisible hand that pulled the physical body of the other party back. Then, the hell-shaking divine characters exploded near the small part of the remaining consciousness in the body of the other party, causing that small part of the consciousness to fall into chaos and panic. Then, Long Yu, Dark Flame Ghost, and the Four Symbols Killing Prison took action. At the same time, a wisp of pitch-black flames from the era of Dark Flame followed the gap in the physical body of the other party and quickly reached the strength core of the other party. Kill! As Long Yu roared, the wisp of pitch-black flames from the era of Dark Flame directly burned the energy shield of the other party. Then, the power of the 4 killing intents from the Four Symbols Killing Prison arrived abruptly and instantly corroded the strength core of the other party. Just like the previous demigod of the machine race, the demigod of the six-winged race was killed by Long Yu in one move without any room to fight back. However, the small part of the consciousness that remained in the other party's body made Long Yu a little confused. Of course, this did not affect Long Yu's ability to kill the demigod of the six-winged race. However, he noticed that the divine eyes technique of the Ball of 9 Serenities did not drag the consciousness in the other party's body into the gap of the turbulent streams of time. It was obvious that the ball of 9 serenities was not completely omnipotent. If it was not this small part of the consciousness that was left behind, but the main consciousness of the demigod of the six-winged race, it would be hard to say what the current situation would be like. As Long Yu's killing moves were launched one after another, the body of the demigod of the six-winged race could not hold on any longer. When its consciousness finally returned from the gap of the turbulent streams of time, the strength core had completely collapsed. Long Yu's ball of 9 serenities was already devouring its body. Then, the consciousness of the demigod knew that the situation was hopeless and immediately felt extremely regretful. If it had known that this human brat actually had the ability to use this technique, it would have directly escaped just now. There was no need for it to stubbornly hold on here. Now, it actually lost its life. As the ball of 9 serenities finished devouring the body of the snow-white demigod of the six-winged race, Long Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. You guys clean up the battlefield. I have to hurry back. Feeling the surging power in the small world, Long Yu immediately knew that he had to rest for a period of time and use the creation item to completely repair his injuries. Otherwise, the wounds that he had in the small world this time would affect his future cultivation. Okay. The Saint Emperor, Consort Yu, Red, Oriole, and the others all nodded. Their own injuries had not fully recovered yet, but they were all minor injuries that were not a problem. Therefore, it was not a problem for them to stay and clean up the battlefield. There are still many remains of the small worlds of demigods of alien races on the battlefield. It was very likely that they could find some things that were very important to the universe in the ruins. If you find any creation item, give them all to me. I have to repair the small world first. After saying that, Long Yu left in front of everyone. At this moment, in the universe, Shui Luo, Chi Hua, Man Xian, and the others were already cheering. They had never thought that Long Yu could have such terrifying strength that he could kill all the demigods of alien races whose strength density was close to 40 times. Such an ability was almost invincible in the territory of the human race and the demon race, wasn't it? However, after this battle, Long Yu's small world would probably suffer serious damage. Let's go. After giving the order, Liao Lele left the universe with the medicine cauldron of bitter sea and went to where Consort Yu and the others were. She was going to collect materials and make special pills that could repair the small world for Long Yu. Chapter 1658. Long Yu soon returned to the Void Galaxy and rested in the ancient relic of the multi-winged race. He still had a few items of creation with him. He absorbed the power of creation from them and used them to repair all the damage that he had suffered in the small world. After he killed the demigod of the six-winged clan, the small world had already become a mess because he had overexerted his strength. It could almost be described as riddled with holes, and the largest space crack was as wide as 3,000 square kilometers. It was just like when he entered the debris of the small world of the sufferers in the divine martial world of the netherworld. Countless space cracks appeared in the small world and tore the whole space apart. Fortunately, Long Yu was relieved that his 8 innate skills fruits were not affected. Also, he had been moving the continent of the new martial world away from the area where the space cracks were. Otherwise, this battle alone would have killed or injured hundreds of billions of creatures in the new martial world. It could be said to be a complete disaster. This was the case for demigod experts. Countless creatures were born in the small world. Once they were hurt, the creatures in the small world would suffer a destructive blow. In fact, even some cultivators in the secret realm of dominators were facing the same situation. Long Yu cherished the creatures in his small world. After all, the existence of these creatures added the power of the world to him and increased his strength in a disguised way. If there was any way to increase one's basic strength after reaching the demigod level, there was only one way, and that was to let more creatures into his small world. It wasn't difficult to achieve this point. He just needed enough world energy to feed these living creatures. The stronger the overall strength of the living creatures in the pocket dimension, the stronger the world energy that Long Yu would obtain. Both sides were in a state where they were bound together for good or bad. The sword race, the six-winged race, and the machine race. I've obtained the debris of the small worlds of the three races. It seems that I'll know a lot more about the three races the next time I meet them. Long Yu thought to himself, in the wreckage of the small worlds of the three powerful clans, there must be many relatively weak alien races living. By studying these alien races, one could undoubtedly obtain a lot of precious information about the three powerful alien races. Of course, it was impossible for the inquiry to be about the overall situation of the three foreign clans. After all, the creatures living in these miniature worlds were extremely ignorant about the situation in the outside world. For example, in Long Yu's miniature world, there were hundreds of billions of creatures living in the new martial world, and at least 90 billion of them were unaware of the situation in the outside world. There were less than 10 billion people who knew about the existence of small worlds and the outside world, but they were completely unaware of the situation in the outside world. Only a small number of people knew that they lived in Long Yu's pocket world. Therefore, it was impossible for Long Yu to find out the overall situation of the three alien races in the outside world through the three living beings in these small worlds. At most, he could only study the cultivation situation of the three alien races, their body structure, and their specialties. However, even this information was enough for Long Yu and the others to have a much better understanding of the three alien races. The next time they met, it was very likely that they would know the weaknesses of the three alien races. It was actually very easy to explore the weaknesses of the other party. As long as someone was sent to the wreckage of the other party's miniature world, they could hide and observe where the creatures in these miniature worlds were attacking when they fought with each other. Naturally, the core of the power was one of them. However, just like the human clan and the demon clan, if their head and heart were destroyed, most of them would not be able to survive. Knowing more weaknesses of the other party would make it easier for them to find the flaws in the battle and launch a fatal attack on the enemy. Currently, Long Yu could only explore the location of the other party's power core through the secret martial arts technique of balance control. In the future, if he encountered a stronger existence, it was very likely that he would not be able to attack the other party's power core. Therefore, it was extremely important for him to know the other weaknesses of the other party. Long Yu began to absorb the creation items that he had kept, and then absorb the creation power within them to repair the spatial cracks in the current miniature world. There were no less than 100 spatial cracks in his miniature world, and the largest one even had a radius of 3,000 miles. Repairing them required a massive amount of creation power. After this battle, Long Yu had basically used up all the creation items that he had obtained from the eroding Moon Ancient Domain. Not a single one was left. If he encountered any more battles in the future, not only would Long Yu not be able to use the Divine Eyes Ball of 9 underworlds too many times, he would even have to consider using the 8 Extremities bloodline. Otherwise, he would not have so many creation items to repair the miniature world. It seems like I have to think of a way to find some creation items to store. However, existences like supreme-grade creation items and supreme-grade creation items can't be found in the territories of the human clan and the demon clan. Even first-grade heaven crystal-level creation items are very rare. Long Yu thought in his heart. He had a vague plan, but it wasn't mature yet. After all, the sword race and the other two races were still exploring the void galaxy. Perhaps the next wave of attacks would arrive soon. He maintained the state of slowing down the flow of time in his 9 underworld steel and began to heal his injuries. In the galaxy outside, there was a joyous atmosphere. This time, the 3 great alien clans had attacked, but they were all killed by Long Yu. There were too many treasures in the remains of the small worlds of the demigods. There were no less than 100 creation items alone, and all of them were heaven crystal level creation items. They were at least 3rd grade and above. There were even 4 supreme grade creation items added together. Of course, the 4 supreme grade creation items were all kept by Consort Yu and the others. They were going to give them to Long Yu later. After all, Long Yu had won the battle in the end. All the spoils of war would be distributed by Long Yu. There were also 11 first-grade Heaven Crystal level creation items prepared for Long Yu. As for the other second-grade and third-grade Heaven Crystal level creation items, the power of creation contained in them was not very useful to Long Yu. Therefore, Consort Yu and the others decided to use them as storage resources for the Void Galaxy. They could only be used at critical moments. Apart from those, there were also 5 elementary modified demigod source items. Demigod source items were different from battle weapons. If they were battle weapons or absolute beginning divine grade weapons, it would be very difficult for others to use them. However, demigod source items were different. Anyone who got a demigod source item could use it as long as they could understand the power within it. 5 elementary modified demigod source items could greatly increase the overall strength of the Void Galaxy. The strength of many new demigods would increase by at least 1 level. Apart from the demigod source items and creation items, there were also many other things like battle weapons in the remains of the alien demigod small worlds. Most importantly, the cultivation resources were too abundant. All kinds of pills and battle weapons could be decomposed into the most primitive materials and used to make pills and battle weapons that humans and demons could use. These cultivation resources could at least increase the strength of the bone race that every combatant in the Void Galaxy was raising to the level of the ruler's secret realm. What kind of terrifying technique was this? When the bone race and the bone race became existences in the ruler's secret realm, the overall strength of the ruler's army and the great ruler's army in the Void Galaxy would double. The other rulers' armies of the human race and demon race seemed to be powerless in front of the 4 rulers' armies of the Void Galaxy. After all, every member of the 4 rulers' armies in the Void Galaxy was raising at least 3 bone race members. At least one of them was the main combat force, and the others were the family members of the bone race members. All in all, with the treasures and cultivation resources delivered by the alien demigods, the entire Void Galaxy entered a period of rapid improvement again. Very quickly, Long Yu received the 4 transcendent grade creation items that Concubine Yu and the others had sent over, as well as 11 heavenly crystal grade creation items. These became his strategic reserves. If a battle broke out again, he would be able to kill his opponents with all kinds of methods. It would be best if they could learn the secret techniques of training and increase the density of their power. Otherwise, it will be hard for us to deal with the upcoming crises. The 3 alien species have already sent such powerful beings this time. Next time, they will definitely send demigods with a power density of more than 40 times, Long Yu thought to himself. He was somewhat confused. The demigod Ghostly Crow said that the Void God Temple would be opened in 2 years. By then, all the new demigods would be able to go there and learn their own secret cultivation methods. Normally, 2 years would pass in the blink of an eye for demigods. But right now, the Void Galaxy didn't have that much time to wait. He had to think of other ways, but right now, Long Yu couldn't think of any. He could only improve himself first. After taking the elixir, his cultivation speed of the 9 exterminations of heavenly seclusion was doubled. Together with the effect of slowing down the flow of time by 10 times, his cultivation speed was almost 20 times that of other people. 1 month in the outside world was equivalent to 20 months of cultivation for him, which was almost 2 years. Such efficiency was unimaginable for other people. Before, when Long Yu was in the area where the flow of time was slowed down, he could basically master one of the 9 exterminations of heavenly seclusion in 2 months. But now, he only needed 1 month, which was equivalent to 3 days in the outside world. To be able to double the power density in just 3 days, no one would believe such an efficiency. However, it had indeed happened to Long Yu. Of course, to others, only 3 days had passed. However, to Long Yu, it had actually been a month. However, his patience was extremely strong. Even if he were to cultivate alone for several years, nothing would happen to him, let alone a few months' time. Besides, sometimes people would come to accompany him, such as Red Oriole, Consort Yu, Shiyingwu, and so on. They would come to discuss certain things with Long Yu now and then. Long Yu thought for a moment and simply taught the 9 exterminations of heavenly seclusion to Consort Yu. Because the divine script of 9 exterminations that Consort Yu understood might be suitable for this secret cultivation method. Chapter 1659. As it turned out, Consort Yu could indeed practice the 9 exterminations of celestial nether, but it wasn't the best one for her. That was because the script of Netherworld was only a part of the power that Long Yu had comprehended. For her, the script of Netherworld and the white divine characters were balanced. If she practiced the 9 exterminations of celestial nether, she would be weakened in another way. In that case, Consort Yu's overall strength might actually decrease. If that's the case, you don't have to practice the 9 exterminations of celestial nether. Long Yu felt that it was a pity. Consort Yu smiled. It doesn't matter. For me, I naturally have to choose a more suitable secret art to practice. It's just that I haven't improved much recently, so I can only rely on you to guard the Void Galaxy. I don't think the Sword Race will let this go so easily. I'm afraid that the crisis that you have to deal with will be even more difficult. Yes, I think so too, but there's no other way. No matter who comes, I won't let them harm the Void Galaxy, the human race, and the demon race. Long Yu nodded solemnly. After Consort Yu left, Long Yu began to practice. Taking advantage of the fact that the effects of the divine pellet still existed, Long Yu's cultivation speed was now twice as fast as before. It was a pity that Long Yu had consumed it too early. That divine pellet should have been consumed when the energy density was even higher. That way, his future cultivation would be even easier and faster. But since he had already taken it, Long Yu didn't hesitate. He would take advantage of this opportunity to improve his strength. The 9 exterminations of celestial nether was divided into 9 rounds of cultivation, and each round was divided into 9 exterminations. Every time he mastered an extermination, his power density would double. Right now, he had only reached the 5th extermination of the first round. His cultivation speed was still very fast. But of course, Long Yu wouldn't complain that his cultivation speed was too fast. In fact, he even felt that it was too slow. It was true that his speed of training was already unbelievably fast compared to other demigods, but given the current situation, it might not be enough for him to solve the problem. The first round of the Nether Sky 9 Absolutes started from the 6th Absolutes all the way to the 9th Absolutes. There was a total of 4 Absolutes. Long Yu spent 12 days to finish cultivating them. Of course, 12 days refer to the time that had passed in the outside world. In fact, Long Yu had been cultivating in the area where the flow of time had slowed down for nearly 4 months, which was 120 days. At this time, Long Yu's power density had finally increased from 15 times to 19 times. With one more step, he would be able to step into the realm of 20 times. But what made Long Yu astonished was that the Netherski 9 Absolute's second round cultivation speed was actually at least 5 times slower than the first round. This surprised Long Yu a little. If it was 5 times slower, it would take a very long time to cultivate to 20 times the power density. Even with Long Yu's speed, he still had to wait for 15 days in the outside world before he could successfully cultivate the first extermination of the second round of the Netherski 9 Absolutes. If the cultivation speed of each round increases by 5 times in the future, my power density will basically stagnate when I reach the 4th round of the Netherski 9 Absolutes. Only now did Long Yu realize how difficult it was to cultivate the power density of the demigod realm. If it weren't for the effects of the divine pills, it would have been impossible for Long Yu to reach the second round in such a short time, which was to reach 20 times the power density. But at this stage, apart from cultivating honestly, Long Yu had no other choice. He could only cultivate first. Very soon, about a month had passed since the attack of the 3 powerful races. Long Yu had almost spent more than 2 years in the area where the flow of time was slowed down. Only then did he manage to successfully cultivate the first extermination of the second round of the Netherski 9 Absolutes, allowing him to reach 20 times the power density. Then, he discovered that the power density of 20 times was completely different from that of 19 times. Although it was only a difference of 1 times the power density, the power could at least be doubled in a real battle. This was the level of power that one had in the demigod realm. Every time the power density broke through 20 times, one's combat ability would be much higher than before. A demigod with 40 times the power density can be condensed into a quasi-divine source item after death and can undergo elementary modifications. A demigod with 60 times the power density can be condensed into a quasi-divine source item that can undergo intermediate modifications. It seems that every 20 times the power density is a qualitative change for demigods. Long Yu thought to himself. Also, at this time, he sensed another great change, which was related to the ancient god brain field. The ancient god brain field that he had opened up originally had a capacity of 500, but when he stepped into 20 times the power density, the capacity of the ancient god brain field suddenly expanded to 600. This allowed Long Yu to engrave more ancient god seals in the ancient god brain field to improve the effect of his Devil Dust clone martial arts secret technique. In this way, his recovery speed in battle would become faster, and his survival rate would also be higher. No matter when, Long Yu always put survival first. Therefore, in the process of cultivating the martial arts secret technique, he also took into account the means that were beneficial to his survival first. Right now, the capacity of Long Yu's 600 ancient god brain fields was fully occupied. Among them were the Understanding Mark, the Starbrand Mark, and the World Pure Body and the Devil Dust Heart. His strength did not increase much, but if he obtained other ancient god seals, he could directly engrave them into the ancient god brain field, and it would not affect his current combat ability. Then, Long Yu came out of the GOU prison tablet. He had only entered the 4th level of the GOU prison tablet. If he could enter the 5th level of the core space, he did not know what kind of things there would be. The condition was that he could cultivate the first 2 rounds of the GOU prison tablet and enter the 3rd round of the core space. In other words, Long Yu needed to cultivate until the power density reached 28 times before he could enter the 5th level of the core space of the GOU prison tablet. Regarding this, Long Yu was not in a hurry. Cultivation could not be achieved overnight, and the GOU prison tablet was related to the gods. The hidden secrets were definitely not something that Long Yu could fully understand at his current stage. After coming out of the GOU prison tablet, Long Yu found that everyone in the Void Galaxy seemed to be in a very heavy mood. He also felt that the entire Void Galaxy seemed to be shrouded in a special kind of pressure. After carefully sensing it, he found that it was equivalent to the feeling of prey being targeted by the hunter. It made people instinctively feel uneasy, and this uneasiness came from the bottom of their hearts. Unexpectedly, no one could get rid of this uneasiness. However, the detection formation that the Heavenfire Doyen had set up around the Void Galaxy did not send any news of the foreign race's attack. On the contrary, since the 3 major races, the Sword Race, the Six-Winged Race, and the Mechanical Race, basically no one cared about the Void Galaxy anymore. It was as if the other foreign races had given up on this target. However, Long Yu knew that the 3 major races, the Sword Race and the Six-Winged Race, would not let him go so easily. Although he was not very clear about what the Golden Flame Divine Power meant, just the high-level modified demigod source Grey Dark Flame Ghost alone was enough to make them give up so easily. But no matter what, no one came to attack the Void Galaxy. It was just that everyone felt uneasy. "How long have you had this feeling?" Long Yu found Consort Yu and asked her. "Only 2 days. Just 2 days ago, there seemed to be a dark cloud outside the Void Galaxy, which made all of us feel uneasy. However, we did not find anything unusual." Consort Yu's brows were tightly knitted. This was the first time she had encountered such a situation. She guessed that the experts of the 3 major races of the Sword Race were about to arrive. However, there was no sign of them in all directions, and they did not show up at all. This made her feel more and more uneasy. "Don't be too nervous. No matter what kind of foreign races come, I will stop them. Long Yu smiled and nodded at Consort Yu. Then, he prepared to go outside the divine spirit barrier to investigate. No matter what the situation was, he believed that with his strength, he would not be killed without the slightest resistance. He was prepared that the foreign demigod who came to attack this time would be very strong, but it would be 60 times the strength density at most. There was no way that a race with 80 times the strength density would come to such a small place to deal with a human boy, right? If you encounter any strong enemies, don't fight them head-on. The divine spirit barrier can still hold them off for a while. When the time comes, we can discuss the countermeasures together. Understand? Consort Yu reminded Long Yu. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Long Yu nodded. Of course, he would not go and die pointlessly. However, if the enemy's target was just him, he did have an idea. Maybe he could lead the enemy somewhere else. In any case, Long Yu decided to go out and take a look himself. I'll go with you. After learning what Long Yu was thinking, the Holy Emperor stopped cultivating and sent a telepathic thought to him through the dragon bone thousand feathers. I know what you're thinking, but if you encounter something like the sword race, you still need the dragon bone thousand feathers to break their defense. There was no way that Long Yu could hide what he was thinking from the Holy Emperor. However, the Saint Emperor's words were not wrong. If Long Yu encountered an expert like that, it was very likely that he would lack any trump cards at a crucial moment and be suppressed and killed in the end. As a result, Long Yu would be much safer with the Saint Emperor accompanying him. Although this would put the Holy Emperor in danger, Long Yu believed that he could stall the enemy and let the Holy Emperor escape first. Then let's go together. This time, I plan to go to the territory of the Divine Water Race and the Silverstone Race and see if there are any special circumstances. Now that I've reached 20 times the strength density, I can finally open a space-time tunnel on my own. As long as it's not too far away, I can return to the Divine Spirit Barrier at any time. After thinking for a moment, Long Yu agreed to go with the Holy Emperor. Chapter 1660. Long Yu brought the Sage Emperor with him, and the two quietly departed from the Star River Void. This time, Long Yu didn't even inform Red Oriole, because she was also cultivating. There was no need for Long Yu to disturb her and tell her the news that would only make her worry. Around the Void Galaxy, there were originally 3 alien races' territories. The Soul Race's territory had basically been occupied by humans, demons, and the Wine Race, and the Ice God Race and the Desolate God Race. The entire Soul Race's territory was a mess. It was impossible for anyone to come to the Void Galaxy for now. The other 2 races' territories were the Divine Water Race and the Silverstone Race. With Long Yu's current strength, he could easily crush the Divine Water Race and the Silverstone Race. Even if he ran into the strongest demigods of the 2 races, they were only 30 times stronger than him. Long Yu could kill them easily. He didn't even need to use any methods that would damage his small world. Therefore, Long Yu chose to explore the 2 alien races' territories. Maybe he could find some clues that would make people in the Void Galaxy feel uneasy. Also, the 3 alien races' target was Long Yu. If Long Yu wasn't in the Void Galaxy, maybe they wouldn't go there directly. Long Yu guessed that they must have a way to find out where he was, which was why they did this. In any case, Long Yu's main purpose this time was to gather information. Apart from the weird situation that people in the Void Galaxy were facing, he also wanted information about the Void God Temple. Among humans and demons, the Void God Temple was the one that was known to open recently. New demigods could go there to learn the secret arts that suited them, but other alien races might know some other information. Just the divine halls that the humans and demons knew of numbered over a dozen in total. They all opened at different times. Some opened 3 years apart, while others opened 30 years apart. These divine halls were all hidden near the territories of the humans and demons. They were no more than 10 regions away from each other at most. In the Void Galaxy, the unit of distance was a zone. A zone was 100 million kilometers, which was also the furthest distance that the space-time mark could mark. The teleportation arrays of the space-time mark could only send people this far. The territories of the human race and the demon race were only 3 to 5 territories. 10 territories were more or less the same as the territories of the neighboring alien races. It was about the same size in the Void Galaxy. Therefore, if Long Yu went to the territory of the Divine Water Race and the Silver Stone Race, he might know a few other temples. If he could receive the corresponding information, he would be able to ask the new demigods in the galaxy to go to the temples and perceive the secret arts that suited them. Long Yu arrived in the territory of the Divine Water Race very soon and hid himself. With the density of his energy right now, it was impossible for anyone to discover his tracks unless they were demigods. As for the Saint Emperors, they were all stowed away in his miniature world. It was much safer. After all, the time on the road could be used for training for the Saint Emperors. The territory of the Divine Water Race was very vast, almost the same as the territory of the Soul Race. It was made of more than 400 galaxies, and there were 8 zones between them. It was almost twice as vast as the territory of the human race and the demon race. The overall strength of the Divine Water Race was also much higher than that of the human race and the demon race. Although the Divine Water Race had lost a lot of demigods when they attacked the Void Galaxy a while ago, it didn't affect them too much. They still had the ability to influence the nearby galaxies. However, in front of Long Yu at this moment, the Divine Water Race was nothing to be scared of. It was just like in his previous life, when human beings who had master guns were not scared of the ferocious beasts such as lions and tigers. Long Yu could move freely in the territory of the Divine Water Race. Even if he might run into danger, it wouldn't be from the Divine Water Race. He was almost sure that the Sword Race and the other 2 races had ordered the demigods of the Divine Water Race and the Silver Stone Race to attack the Void Galaxy, but they failed. He didn't know if there were any traces of the 3 races in the territory of the Divine Water Race. Within the Water Divine Race, the vast majority of divine runic sources were divine runic sources derived from the power of water origin or metal origin. Moreover, just like the human and monster race territories, they were basically source-level divine runic sources. However, there were sources of divine symbols at the apocalypse level. They definitely existed in the territory of the Divine Water Race, but it wasn't easy for Long Yu to find them. They must be hidden in the core of the territory of the Divine Water Race. Only the most talented cultivators of the Divine Water Race were qualified to comprehend the apocalypse-level sources of divine symbols. An eternal-level divine rune source. With the strength of the Divine Water Race, it was impossible for them to obtain something of this level. Regular cultivators of the Divine Water Race wouldn't know anything about the temples either. It seems that I still have to ask the demigods of the Divine Water Race. However, if I just ask like this, they probably won't tell me the truth. I have to think of a way. Thinking to himself, Long Yu soon came up with an idea. Although his Book of Shadows could be seen through by the demigod experts if he turned into nothingness, what if he imitated the cultivators of the Divine Water Race? Then it would be flawless. As long as Long Yu found a chance to get close to the demigods of the Divine Water Race, he would definitely have a chance to get some information about the temples. If the demigods of the Divine Water Race knew that the temples would be opened soon, they would definitely make preparations and send the new demigods to the temples to comprehend the secret arts of cultivation. Of course, the Divine Water Race didn't seem to have any new demigods recently, but that didn't stop Long Yu from asking around. Very soon, Long Yu already had a plan of action. He killed a 3rd phase Divine Water Race member on a random planet, and then imitated this Divine Water Race member with the Book of Shadows. This Divine Water Race member could be counted as an expert on this cultivation planet. It just so happened that there was an opportunity recently that needed this Divine Water Race member to go to a large cultivation planet nearby. That was the main galaxy of the Divine Water Race, and it even ruled several galaxies around it. There happened to be a new demigod of the Divine Water Race on it. Long Yu turned into the 3rd phase Divine Water Race member and headed toward that cultivation planet. Very soon, he blended into the society of the Divine Water Race. The appearance of the Divine Water Race member was a pool of liquid, which could change into any shape at any time. Liquid life forms were relatively rare, but in terms of cultivation, the divine water race had their own advantages. Because their bodies were in the form of liquid, they had a natural advantage when comprehending the derivative divine symbols of the primordial power of the water race. Long Yu mingled in the galaxy of the divine water race and began to investigate information about the temples and the three alien races of the sword race. He kept turning into different experts of the divine water race, and he became stronger and stronger. Very soon, he even became the leader of one of the cultivation planets of the divine water race and received the opportunity to meet the demigod experts. Long Yu directly went to meet the new demigod of the divine water race. After becoming a member of the divine water race, Long Yu also gained the ability to communicate with the divine water race. At least, he was able to understand some of the common things related to cultivation. However, there were some things related to the divine water race's culture and history that he could not understand at all. Of course, he didn't need to understand those things. You're quite lucky. It seems that this is the only new demigod of the entire divine water race, and it doesn't have its own secret cultivation method. You just happen to run into it. The Holy Emperor was cultivating in Long Yu's small world. He wanted to laugh when he heard the news. I'm just lucky. There's nothing I can do about it. Also, this guy is about to set off and is now gathering the leaders of the cultivation planets in the nearby galaxy. He's going to go to that temple after giving them some instructions. If my information is correct, that temple is called the Rain God Temple. It will open in 2 months in another direction of the territory of the divine water race, about 10 domains away from the Void Galaxy. I can go there directly by opening the space-time tunnel. Of course, the condition is that I have to find the location of the Rain God Temple within 2 months, get its space-time coordinates, and return to the Void Galaxy. Long Yu and the Holy Emperor communicated silently through the Dragonbone Thousand Feather battle weapon. I just don't know if there are any differences between the different temples. The Holy Emperor hesitated. There shouldn't be any difference. The demigod Ghostly Crow also said that any new demigod can learn their own secret cultivation method in the Void God Temple. In any case, I want to take a look around the Rain God Temple first. It would be great if I can find something. Long Yu said to the Holy Emperor. All right, let's take a look first. We should be able to find something. The Holy Emperor nodded in the small world. After giving the instructions, the new demigod of the divine water race was directly teleported to the Rain God Temple through the space-time marking teleportation array. Naturally, Long Yu did not want to be left behind. After changing his identity, he continued to follow the demigod in the form of a divine water race. Now, Long Yu was thinking that it would be great if the Book of Shadows could be transformed into a divine eyes technique. Then, he might be able to follow the demigod in the state of nothingness. It was a pity that he could only disguise himself as a divine water race. Without special privileges, he had to wait in line to use the space-time marking teleportation array. Fortunately, even if he had to wait in line to use the space-time marking teleportation array, it would be much faster than directly teleporting through the void. After all, the space-time marking teleportation array could teleport a distance of 1 domain in one go. As for the distance of 1 domain, it would take at least a few days for Long Yu to travel through the void continuously. 3 days passed. Together, Long Yu and the Holy Emperor finally followed the new demigod of the divine water race and another demigod senior of the divine water race to the area where the Rain God Temple was located. The news they received was that apart from the divine water race, 3 other alien races nearby would also send new demigods to the Rain God Temple. They started preparing almost 2 months in advance. Once the Rain God Temple was opened, they would enter it. Chapter 1661. The Rain Temple was located in the middle of the border between the territory of the Divine Water Race and the territories of other alien races. Long Yu followed the new demigod of the Divine Water Race to this place, and found that it was also in the middle of a galaxy. However, there was no divine barrier outside this galaxy. It seemed that this place had been discovered for too long. Even the divine barrier had either been broken or disappeared. There was a Rain God Temple in the middle of the void galaxy. The biggest difference between the temples and the regular buildings of other races was that only those who reached the level of demigod could enter these buildings. Cultivators below the level of demigod would be awed by the divine power inside if they came close to the temple and would unknowingly stay away from it. For those below the level of demigod, the temple was an extremely dangerous place. If they broke in by force, their bodies and souls would be destroyed. From the outside, every single one of the temples was different. The rain god temple that appeared in front of Long Yu was in the shape of a water droplet. It was a gigantic building in the shape of a water droplet. It floated in the air and carried the aura of a deity, causing people to revere it. You guys stay outside. The rain temple won't open until 2 months later. When I enter, you guys stay outside and observe the situation. See how many of the other 3 races can come out. The new demigod said to Long Yu and the other followers. Long Yu had disguised himself as a great dominator of the divine water race. He followed the new demigod with 7 other great dominators of the divine water race and didn't show any flaws. 8 great dominators of the divine water race were acting as scouts. That was because the new demigods of 3 other races would come to the Rain Temple. It was necessary for the divine water to know the exact situation of the 3 alien races. After all, they were neighboring races. If they didn't investigate them carefully, it would be a tragedy if they secretly developed. Of course, Long Yu wouldn't act rashly. He had the space-time coordinates of the Void Galaxy in his hand. So, he only needed to wait until the Rain Temple opened and directly open the space-time tunnel to the forces in the Void Galaxy. Then, he would be able to bring the new demigods of the Void Galaxy over. Before that, he wanted to observe the situation in the field. The 4 new demigods of alien races were all coming to the Rain Temple. Long Yu was faced with a lot of pressure. Although he was unstoppable in the Divine Water Race right now, it was still a bit stressful to face 4 alien races of the same level as the Divine Water Race at the same time. Aside from the Divine Water Tribe, the other 3 tribes near the Rain God Hall are the Giant Whale Tribe, the Cloud Tribe, and the Rainbow Light Tribe. I haven't seen many of these 3 tribes in the eroding Moon Ancient region, just like how I haven't seen the Divine Water Tribe. Long Yu thought to himself, but among these 3 races, there must be some existences with a power density of over 20 times. If the 4 races join hands, it will be a bit troublesome for me. In a situation where I don't want to use my trump card, I'll have to use the Dark Flame Haunted Ghost to kill a demigod of this level. Long Yu did not make a move, quietly waiting for the situation to appear. At the same time, he was thinking about the situation of the Sword Race, the Six-Winged Race, and the Mechanical Race. They had lost so many demigods near the Void Galaxy, and the Void Galaxy had been enveloped in a layer of terrifying pressure. However, no powerful existences had appeared, causing Long Yu to be a little puzzled. He knew that once the enemy launched an attack, it would be unprecedentedly fierce. They wouldn't give the Void Galaxy any chance to catch its breath. So, he had to prepare all the escape routes before that happened. The Rain Temple was one of the opportunities in Long Yu's eyes. He had to let the people in the Void Galaxy grow up. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Long Yu to protect the entire Void Galaxy by himself. There was also another aspect. Long Yu had to figure out if the other party could accurately pinpoint his location. If something happened in the Void Galaxy, Long Yu would know immediately because he was holding a divine demon thunder in his hand. It was something Consort Yu gave him before he left. If something unstoppable happened in the Void Galaxy, Consort Yu only needed to detonate the other divine demon thunder on the other side, and the divine demon thunder in Long Yu's hand would explode together. As long as the divine demon thunder exploded, he would know that something must have happened in the Void Galaxy. If the Sword Race, the Machine Race, and the Six-Winged Race had chased him all the way to the Rain God Palace, then Long Yu was sure that they would be able to calculate his exact location. But if the 3 races still chose to attack the Void Galaxy, there was an 80% chance that they only knew where the Void Galaxy was, but they couldn't calculate Long Yu's specific location. Long Yu already had a way to deal with both situations. He could make sure that he could create a relatively stable environment for himself and the people in the Void Galaxy to improve. 3 days passed. 10 days passed. During this time, Long Yu couldn't cultivate in the area where the flow of time was slowed down because the divine water race was always around. It wasn't the time for him to do anything yet. He couldn't do anything even if it was a waste of time. For him, as long as he could create a stable enough training environment, he would be able to continue his cultivation much faster than others. No matter how hard he cultivated, it was impossible for him to become as strong as the super demigods who were 60 or 80 times stronger than him. Therefore, the most important thing was not to improve, but to create a stable training environment. The Rain Temple was a suitable opportunity. After a month, the other 3 races, apart from the Divine Water race, finally arrived in this galaxy one after another. The Whale race, the Cloud race, and the Rainbow race were basically nothing special. Long Yu observed for a while, and found that there were only 1 or 2 new demigods in each of them. The Rain Temple was opened every 30 years, and the last time it was opened was 4 years ago. Therefore, in the past 4 years, the 4 races, including the Divine Water race, only had 1 or 2 new demigods, which was quite normal for the 4 races. After all, they weren't super strong races like the Sword race or the Mechanical race. Every demigod was a very important resource, especially for a race like the Divine Water race. Because the number of demigods was too small, they were rather conservative in war and wouldn't send demigods to risk their lives. The previous attacks on the Void Galaxy had already caused the Divine Water race and the Silverstone race a lot of losses. Now, they were basically hiding in their territory. After living in the territory of the Divine Water race for a long time, Long Yu had learned that the general public of the Divine Water race didn't know about the Void Galaxy. Only the demigods and some soldiers on the battlefield knew about the Void Galaxy and knew that the Divine Water race had suffered a lot of losses in the Void Galaxy. They had already regarded the Void Galaxy as the #1 threat. As long as there were any movements in the Void Galaxy, the Divine Water race would immediately take corresponding actions. What made Long Yu feel strange was that he didn't receive any information about the Sword race, the Six-Winged race, or the Machine race. It could be seen that the appearance of these 3 powerful races in the territory of the Divine Water race was extremely secretive. At the very least, the Divine Water race, being he was disguised, as was unable to receive such information. Let me estimate the strength of those opponents first. I could take action about 3 days before the Rain God Temple is opened. Long Yu secretly calmed himself down and observed the demigods of the 4 alien races. He had secretly activated the secret technique of the light of equalization and observed the demigods of the 4 alien species clearly. The demigods of the 4 alien species all regarded each other as a threat. It never occurred to them that a boy of another species was hiding among them and was about to take them all in one fell swoop. Each of the 4 races is led by a demigod whose strength density is 23 to 24 times that of the demigods of the 4 races. The rest are all new demigods. There are 6 of them in total. It won't be difficult to deal with them. I can kill them all with the Dark Flame Ghosts. Long Yu thought to himself. The most important thing right now was to gather the demigods of the 4 races. The 4 alien demigods had been wary of each other. Before the Rain God Temple was opened, they wouldn't gather together. They couldn't even get close to each other, not to mention that all 4 of them were gathered together. If Long Yu chose to attack one of the races, the other 3 races would not necessarily adopt an attitude of helping. Instead, they would watch from the sidelines or run away when they saw that the situation was not good. In such a case, Long Yu wouldn't be able to annihilate all the demigods of the alien races, which would cause some trouble very soon. After all, the Rain God Temple was the territory of the 4 races. If the 4 races really joined hands because of this, Long Yu might not be able to defeat them. Of course, Long Yu wasn't scared. But the key was that Long Yu was a human, and he had to appear in the form of a human in order to carry out his strength. That way, the other races would know that a human was causing trouble near the Rain God Temple. If the Divine Water race and the other alien races attacked the human race, because of this, it would be very bad. Right now, the human race and the demon race didn't have the ability to fight against the divine water race and the other alien races. Now, just dealing with the Ice God clan, the Wild God clan, and the other alien clans was enough to give the human clan and the monster clan a headache. If the divine water clan and the 3 nearby clans were added to the equation, it would be even more troublesome. It was even possible that the entire human race would be destroyed. In Long Yu's plan, there was a plan to escape with all the people in the Void Galaxy, but it didn't include the entire human race and the demon race. The territory of the human race and the demon race was too large. It was impossible to migrate all of them. Then, there's nothing I can do. An idea occurred along you. Chapter 1662. Near the Rain Temple, the newly promoted demigods of the Divine Water race, the Whale race, the Cloud race, and the Rainbow Light race were waiting for the opening of the Rain Temple with the Demigod Senior. There were only 3 days left before the opening of the Rain Temple. At this moment, the demigods of the 4 alien species were getting excited because the Rain Temple was only opened once every 30 years. Apart from the new demigods who could perceive the secret techniques that suited them, the other demigods could also enter. If they were lucky enough, they might get some good stuff from the temple. It was said that someone had once opened the brain domain of the ancient god in the Rain Temple and obtained a powerful ancient god's tattoo. Someone had also obtained a certain godly martial arts technique in the Rain Temple and could exert extremely terrifying power after completely comprehending it. Of course, the odds of getting anything from the Rain Temple were not high, but the Rain Temple was not very dangerous. Therefore, many demigods were willing to be guides for a chance to enter the Rain Temple. After the Rain Temple opened, the number of demigods that could enter each time was limited. 10. This time, the total number of demigods from the 4 races was exactly 10. It was also an agreement between the 4 races that every time the Rain Temple opened, each race could only send 1 demigod to lead the team. If there were no newly promoted demigods, 2 could be chosen. If a race had more than 2 newly promoted demigods, then only 2 of them could enter the Rain Temple. 2 of the races had 3 slots to enter the Rain Temple. The slots were rotated after each opening of the Rain Temple. This time, it was the Whale race and the Cloud race's turn. Therefore, the Whale race and the Cloud race each sent a demigod senior to the Rain Temple with 2 newly promoted demigods. As for the Rainbow Light race and the Divine Water race, they each sent 2 demigods this time. There were 10 of them in total. When the Rain Temple was about to open, they were all somewhat excited, but they were still very vigilant among themselves. Although the 4 races had an agreement with the Rain God Temple beforehand, this agreement did not have much binding force. If any race wanted to cause trouble, they could easily break this agreement. They had to be on guard against it. There were only 3 days left before the opening of the Rain God Temple. Long Yu finally decided to take action. Right when the 4 species were excited and vigilant, at the center of the space where the 10 demigods and their lackeys were at, something suddenly appeared. It was an iron shackle that was burning in black flames. The air of death that was palpitating spread out from the iron shackle nonstop, as if one's soul would be blown apart the moment they were touched by the black flames. Even the demigods of the 4 clans whose power density was more than 20 times higher were no exception. What is this? The demigods of the 4 clans were rather confused. The 10 demigod experts were very curious about the iron lock that was burning in black flames, but they did not dare to act recklessly. These old fellows knew very well that there were too many unknowns and dangers in this world. If they wanted to explore everything they encountered, even 100 lives wouldn't be enough for them. Therefore, when the iron shackle first appeared, the 10 demigods did not do anything. They simply stared at the iron shackle. It was exactly the bait that Long Yu threw out to gather the demigods, the dark flame ghost chain. However, he did not expect that these demigods would be so ignorant, or rather, they were too cautious to act rashly. However, that was the end of the alien demigod's vigilance. This is an advanced modified divine level item. The great dominator of the divine water race that Long Yu had imitated immediately put on a look of desire and showed that he knew what it was. Before the two demigods of the divine water race said anything, he directly flew to the black iron shackle at the center. Long Yu had been in the territory of the divine water race for a long time, and he had mastered the method of imitating the real divine water race. Therefore, he naturally knew how to communicate with the divine water race. An advanced modified divine level item. The two demigods of the divine water race and the other members of the divine water race immediately remembered. Wasn't the iron shackle that was burning with black flames emitting the aura of a divine level item? Although he did not know how such a divine source item would appear here, it was indeed possible to encounter such a miraculous thing near the Rain Divine Hall. After all, a divine hall was a divine hall. Although there were still 3 days before the divine hall opened, it was not impossible for a treasure to be thrown out of the Rain Divine Hall. Seeing that the divine water race that Long Yu had imitated was about to touch the iron shackle that was burning with black flames, the 10 demigods of the alien races all began to move. They did not dare to get too close for now. After all, it was an unknown and powerful thing, but they did not want to lose the opportunity to obtain it. An advanced modified divine level item. How powerful was it? Once he obtained it, his strength would undergo an earth-shattering increase. Under the condition of ensuring their own safety, they were willing to start a competition for it. Even the qualification to enter the Rain God Temple was nothing compared to an advanced modified divine level item. Even if they entered the Rain God Temple, they might not be able to obtain any treasures. An advanced modified divine level item was already the strongest weapon in this galaxy. The two demigods of the divine water race were the most relaxed because the great ruler of the divine water race was the closest to the advanced source item. If it really was a treasure, then the divine water race would obtain it first. Even if there was danger, the one who would die would only be a little guy with the strength of a level 7 great ruler. For demigods, the sacrifice of such a guy was not worth mentioning at all. Very soon, Long Yu was not far away from the dark flame ghost. He had been observing the movements of the 10 demigods in the surroundings. Among them, there was a rainbow light race and a new demigod of the giant whale race. They were relatively far away from the dark flame ghost, even beyond the range of Long Yu's absolute space domain. This won't do. I have to wait until all of them enter this area, Long Yu thought to himself. Then he arrived in front of the dark flame ghost in his divine water race form and put it away. Then a terrifying aura emanated from his body. Stronger. I become stronger. This is mine. Long Yu's divine water race form displayed an expression of ecstasy and began to brandish the dark flame ghost. He couldn't use the full power of the dark flame ghost when he was in his divine water race form. He had to return to his human form in order to fully utilize the power of the dark flame ghost. However, this didn't stop him from displaying the power of the dark flame ghost to the other demigods. He was currently displaying the combat strength of a level 7 great ruler. However, the terrifying aura emanating from his body was starting to approach the level of the demigod realm. This was the terror of an advanced, modified divine level item. Back when Long Yu was still a level 7 great ruler, he could use the dark flame ghost to quickly defeat an entire army of foreign rulers. Now he was displaying this kind of power, and the demigod existences of the 4 great foreign races could feel it. Of course, he was purposely letting them feel it. As expected, after the dark flame ghost was used by Long Yu as he wished and emitted a terrifying aura, the originally cautious demigods of the foreign races also began to madly attack where Long Yu was. No one doubted that this advanced, modified divine level item could be used by them. Moreover, it wasn't dangerous for the time being. Didn't they see that a mere level 7 great ruler from the divine water race had obtained it and begun to use its power? This made them all go crazy. This was an advanced, modified divine level item, and there wasn't a single one in their entire race. This was very likely the key to the rise of their race. Once they obtained this advanced, modified divine level item, it was very likely that they would become the strongest of their race and lead their race into an even more glorious era. Therefore, this advanced modified divine level item was a must for them. They've all taken the bait. When Long Yu saw that all the foreign races had actually surrounded him, he instantly knew that his plan had succeeded. This kind of plan that used a modified divine level item to attract the other party to one place basically couldn't go wrong. This was because becoming stronger was the eternal theme of this world. For these foreign demigods, there were only a few ways to become stronger. Obtaining this advanced modified divine level item, the Dark Flame Ghost, was undoubtedly the best shortcut to becoming stronger. Once they obtained it, their strength would undergo a qualitative change. Its importance was self-evident. Unfortunately, these foreign races didn't know that this Dark Flame Ghost was actually a trap set up by Long Yu. Even the two demigods of the Divine Water Race didn't know that there was such an existence in the Void Galaxy that possessed the Dark Flame Ghost. As for the Void Galaxy and Long Yu, they only knew that this force was made up of humans and demons and was very powerful. But as for the specifics, how could these two demigods possibly know? Most of the foreign races that had attacked the Void Galaxy were dead. He, who had seen Long Yu use the Dark Flame Ghost, didn't let a single one of them go. Even now, the Divine Water Race couldn't possibly know about the Dark Flame Ghost. Under such circumstances, Long Yu's victory was basically in the bag. After the 10 alien demigods were all gathered in this area, Long Yu's attack was unleashed. Absolute Space Field. Holy Emperor, you deal with the followers of the ruler's secret realm. Leave the foreign demigods here, to me. After saying this to the Holy Emperor, Long Yu returned to his human form and sent the Holy Emperor out of the small world. Okay, the Holy Emperor had seen through Long Yu's plan and knew very well what Long Yu was thinking. Even if Long Yu didn't say it, she could cooperate with Long Yu seamlessly. Kill. Before the foreign races could react, the slaughter had already begun. Chapter 1663. The 10 demigods of the Divine Water Race, the Giant Whale Race, the Cloud Race, and the Rainbow Light Race were instantly trapped in the air near the Rain God Temple. Long Yu activated the Absolute Space Field, which instantly covered the entire area. At this moment, the 10 demigods of the foreign races reacted almost at the same time. They sensed that something was wrong, but it was too late. The 2 demigods of the Divine Water Race were the closest. One of them was a new demigod, and the other was a senior demigod. They only saw the iron chain burning with black flames rushing toward them, and then trapping them inside. The 7th phase sovereign of the Divine Water Race had turned into a foreign race in an instant. Human race. The demigods of the Divine Water Race naturally recognized Long Yu's race, but that didn't help them at all. Immediately after, the Dark Flame Ghost Chain trapped them all, and the pitch-black flames eroded into their liquid bodies. Soon, their bodies were even set on fire. The power of death seeped into their bodies. Then, Long Yu pulled the Dark Flame Ghost Chain away, and the murderous hell rushed out. With the power of death, he killed them in an instant. They didn't even have a chance to fight back. After all, if they were attacked by Long Yu first, their power density would be reduced by half. The demigod senior of the Divine Water Race would also be reduced by 10 times. Facing Long Yu, whose power density had reached 20 times, the gap was really too big. Moreover, the power of the Dark Flame Ghost Chain was extremely destructive. Due to many reasons, Long Yu killed the 2 demigods of the Divine Water Race in an instant and then swallowed them with the Ball of 9 Serenities. The Saint Emperor appeared from his small world and then turned into a snow-white bird. He attacked the remaining 7 7th phase sovereign cultivators of the Divine Water Race as fast as he could. It was a piece of cake for a demigod to attack a cultivator in the sovereign secret realm. It could even be called a massacre. Without any suspense, the Sage Emperor used a divinized, innate ability to completely wipe out the 7 cultivators of the Divine Water Race, who were at the 7th phase of the divine water race. At this moment, how could the demigods of the other 3 species not know that they had been ambushed? After cursing the idiots of the divine water race, the 3 races fled in 3 different directions. While Long Yu was dealing with the demigods of the divine water race, they began to attack the void domain around, trying to break the space blockade and escape. However, the demigods of the 3 races were not very strong. If the 8 demigods could work together to attack the absolute space field, there might be a chance that they could break the absolute space field before Long Yu annihilated all of them. But now that they were moving separately, it was impossible for them to break the absolute space field. Kill! Long Yu did not stop at all. After killing the 2 demigods of the divine water race, he flew to the 3 demigods of the whale race. The whale race was an extremely large alien race. They looked a bit like whales, but they had over 100 pairs of eyes on their foreheads. The basic strength of this race was very strong, and after becoming a demigod, their basic strength was also several times higher than that of other races. However, their understanding of divine text was not as good as that of other races. It could be said that they had both advantages and disadvantages. They were the type with relatively thick skin and thick flesh. However, no matter how strong their physical strength was, they could not withstand the power of the dark flame ghost. If the density of the opponent's power was not high enough, the dark flame ghost power of death could easily corrode all the power in the opponent's body and then burn it inside, causing the opponent to lose consciousness and life in a short period of time. Even their spirit and soul would be burned to nothingness. The dark flame ghost was like a soul reaping lives. It directly spread behind the opponents and tied up the 3 whale races' bodies. Although the whale race's bodies were huge, they were nothing to the dark flame ghost. One had to know that the dark flame ghost could expand to tens of thousands of meters long and could even trap an army of sovereigns, let alone these 3 whale race. No matter how big they were still individuals and not a group. For the dark flame ghost, trapping them was no problem at all. Ball of 9 hells. While attacking the whale race's demigods, Long Yu also activated the ordinary ball of 9 hells, spreading the effect of slowing down the flow of time and directly enveloping the absolute space domain. As a result, Long Yu's relative speed was 10 times faster than these guys. The 3 demigods of the whale race, the 3 demigods of the cloud race, and the 2 demigods of the rainbow light race. The remaining 8 alien demigods did have some tricks up their sleeves. Some could even counterattack under the dark flame ghost attack, but unfortunately, they were all blocked by Long Yu's world purification body. Otherwise, he would reconstruct his body with the Devil Dust Heart's secret technique. They could not hurt Long Yu at all. In a short period of time, all the alien races on the battlefield had been cleaned up by Long Yu, and then he used the ball of 9 hells to devour them all. It's done. The Holy Emperor was no slower than Long Yu. After the demigods of the 4 races were all killed by Long Yu, the Holy Emperor also killed all the followers of the 4 races. None of them were spared, and they became energy for the ball of 9 hells to devour. However, Long Yu still did not feel any changes in the ball of 9 hells, as if it was really stuck in a bottleneck. I've already devoured so many demigods, including the sword race, the 6-winged race, and the machine race whose strength density is close to 40 times. Why is there no change at all? Do I need to meet more stringent conditions to further improve the ball of 9 hells? Or rather, I need to devour beings whose strength density is above 40 times. Long Yu did not know what was going on. He could only summon the ball of 9 hells every time he fought and devour the alien race's corpses, hoping that would bring about changes one day. Holy Emperor, give me a hand and open the space-time tunnel to the Void River. Long Yu's eyes flickered. After deactivating the absolute space field, he asked the Holy Emperor to open the space-time tunnel with him. This time, we'll bring everyone in the Void River with us when we return. Leave no one behind. Long Yu said, "Are you sure? If we do that, our foundation in the Void River will be gone, and the Primordium Gold Pond is a resource that we can't take away." The Holy Emperor was a little surprised. She did not expect Long Yu to make such a decision. This decision was obviously a sudden thought by Long Yu. Otherwise, as Long Yu thought of it, the Holy Emperor would already know. Therefore, she did not understand why he suddenly made such a decision. The Primordium Gold Pond is not something too powerful. We have a prophet-level divine rune source, which is more precious than the Primordium Gold Pond. It can be taken away. Long Yu smiled. He had seen too many cultivation resources by now and did not care too much about them. This was because he knew that the cultivation resources in the territories of the human clan and the demon clan were too scarce. If he could go to the central areas of some star fields, then the cultivation resources would be much more than staying in the human clan and the demon clan. A mere Primordium Gold Pond was not a reason to keep Long Yu. Most importantly, it's clear that some powerful beings have set their eyes on the Void Galaxy. But did you notice that when we left the Void Galaxy and arrived near the territory of the Divine Water Tribe and the Rain Divine Palace, the oppressive aura disappeared? Long Yu analyzed. This means that the powerful existence is only eyeing the Void Galaxy, not me. In such a situation, it is not wise for us to defend the Void Galaxy. Now that the Rain God Temple is about to open, it is the best choice for us to retreat. That's right. The Saint Emperor's eyes glittered after hearing the analysis. Now that the Rain God Temple was about to open, everyone in the Void Galaxy could be moved here. Every demigod small world could accommodate everyone in the Void Galaxy, so they could stay in their small worlds for now. Then, when the Rain God Temple was opened, they could hide in it if there was any danger. No matter how powerful the existence eyeing the Void Galaxy was, it would not be able to break into the Rain God Temple. Of course, the Rain God Temple was open every time it was opened. Long Yu calculated. Including himself, there were 7 new demigods in the Void Galaxy. Consort Yu, Yizue, Jitao, Red Oriole, Moon Song, the Saint Emperor, and Long Yu himself. If the 7 of them entered the Rain God Temple, there would be 3 places left. Long Yu couldn't stop the demigods of other alien races from entering. But in the Rain God Temple, Long Yu believed that even the powerful alien races would not dare to cause any trouble. The demigod Ghost Crow once told Long Yu something about the temple. In the temple, everybody's power was sealed. Although only the cultivators in the demigod level could enter, the demigods, after entering, were no different from ordinary people. Under such circumstances, Long Yu's team had 7 people. No matter what kind of existence the other party was, they would be at an absolute advantage even if a conflict broke out. At this moment, Long Yu was more worried about the experts of the sword race, the 6-winged race, and the machine race. The aura that caused the entire Void Galaxy to feel uneasy should have come from one of the experts from the 3 powerful races. However, such an expert would not be so terrifying after his power was sealed in the Rain God Palace. The demigod Ghost Crow also said that after entering the temple, the demigod's location would be completely random when he came out. Therefore, even if that expert was waiting outside the Rain God Temple, it would be impossible for Long Yu and the others to come out. This was a plan that Long Yu had started after he received the news about the Rain God Temple. Now, it all depended on whether or not it could be carried out successfully. Obviously, if he opened the space-time tunnel to the Void Galaxy, the space-time tunnel would last for 3 days. The powerful existence that made the entire Void Galaxy uneasy would definitely be able to sense the space-time tunnel and know that Long Yu had moved all the people in the Void Galaxy away. However, the space-time tunnel that Long Yu opened would appear inside the Void Galaxy. It was impossible for that powerful existence to stop Long Yu, unless it could break the divine barrier in a short time. But how could the divine barrier be broken so easily? Long Yu had enough time to take all the people away. As long as he calculated the time well, Long Yu and the others would have entered the Rain God Temple by the time the powerful existence caught up. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.